Portimao is primed and set. The drivers are poised and ready. And the fabulous region of the Algarve is as serene as it always is, with its stunning southern coastline in the south of Portugal. Around 200 of the world's finest drivers have descended on this beautiful part of the region, ready to do battle for round 2 of the Champions of the Future in OK and OKJ, primed and ready at the beautiful Cartódromo Internacional do Algarve, which so far has held some fabulous qualifying heats so far this weekend. Year of opening 2010 event record set in time qualifying earlier on this weekend by Joe Turney with a 55.056. No one so far has been able to beat that time, but with the fresh tyres starting to come out, it may change. Total track length 1.5 kilometres, 192 metres down the start-finish straight. It's 152 down the second straight in towards the braking zone of turns 2 and 3. Its track is around 8 to 10 metres wide, with an elevation change of around 5 metres, with the highest part being around turn 1 and the lowest part being around turns 12 and 13 out on circuit. And speaking of turns, there are 17 of them, 10 to the right, 7 to the left, with the one hairpin out there in the form of turn number 5. These drivers will have to work very hard around this lap to try and get those overtakes in, but there are many overtaking opportunities. We see them in towards turn 5, turn 3, turn 8, 13, 14 and turn 16. We've also seen attempts in towards turn 17, if you cast your mind back earlier on today, between Costoya and Joe Turney. But those corners also provide plenty of places to reach your top speed. Drivers reaching around 140 kilometers an hour into the braking zone down in towards turn number 2. They average around 100 kilometers an hour around the lap, meaning it is a fast and demanding circuit for these drivers to race on. But plenty has been happening over the morning half. Lots is going to be happening over the second half, because now, Andrew Mather, it is crunch time for the drivers. We'll see the deployment of fresh tyres. We will see the drivers from the back of the grid push themselves forward.
They will indeed. Anyone who's in that kind of danger area of around 72nd place, they know that they've got to perform now across the course of these next 1.5 rounds of heats. We've already seen round 4 start for a couple of the qualifying groups out there. But also the same story for those at the front. They've got to keep the momentum going. There are some championship points to be awarded at the end of all of these qualifying heats today. But for this late afternoon session, we're going to get things going once again with groups D and F heading out on circuit.
Now we certainly will indeed. Talking about that championship that they are fighting for right now over the course of the 5-round season this year. Ilya Christian is your man leading that one with 89 championship points from Dean Hugendorn, and William Kalesia joint on 88 points, meaning there is 1 championship point separating the top 3 out there. So nice and close at the end of the first round in Spain, but coming here to round 2 in Portugal, it's all open for any one of these drivers, and there have been some ups and downs. Lucas Seldo is going to be the young man starting on pole position for this one. The Frenchman certainly has had some relatively decent races over the course of this weekend, but again, all to play for on this one. He now starts on the inside of row number 1. He's got his work cut out with 1 minute to go before the start of this race, Andrew. Yeah,
it's been a bit up and down for Sell, but I think the good thing for the French driver is that, based on what we saw earlier on this morning, we're on the up again. It was a good result for Sell in the 3rd round of heats, so a bit of momentum back with the victory lane driver, who's been impressive. You know, he's raced in OK categories before. We saw some wildcard appearances for Luca on home soil last year, but now back in for a full season tilt, as it were, and has been strong so far in 2025.
Yeah, certainly so, and we'll see what they can continue to do over the course of this race. Can confirm there are a smattering of new tyres out there. We'll talk about that a little bit later on, though, in the race, because some of those drivers are actually relatively high up in that order. One driver I will point out, though, right now, Maxim Bobrajov, who's starting on the 5th row of the grid in P10, has got a brand new set of tyres on the left-hand side. Well, engines fire up, drivers make their way out onto the circuit. Let's quickly fire you through that full starting lineup as they get their temperatures set in their tyres. Lucas Sell and Andrea Mani start this one on row number 1. They'll have Manuel Miguez and Oliver Warner on row 2. Mark Pilipenko and Henry Constant-Kumpin go from row number 3. They'll have Jean-Matteo Rousseau and Mika Runitz on row number 4. Mats Van Ruin and Maxim Bobajov go from row 5. We've already said about Bobajov's tyres, Julian Fresnelli, and you'll have the likes of Sevalod, Osadchi, Soslovsky going from row number 6. Casper Reipold and Angelina Simmons are the next row, and Simmons has also gone for a brand new set of boots on the left-hand side.
Big race this on row 8 for Sebastian Eskandari, who has had a real struggle so far this weekend. Needs a big one just to get through into the superheats. Vanessa Shilkaneta is alongside on that 8th row of the grid. Alex Malota and Emiliano Hernandez go from row 9. They're ahead of Asher Oxteen and Lucas Bonal on row number 10. Nicholas Guth and Nikita Lubomov starts on row 11, ahead of Martin Bertoluccini and Bosco Arias on row 12. Arias very impressive early this morning in the 3rd round of heats. Wen Yubo and Benjamin Magnac starts on row number 13, ahead of Daniel Oliver and Rugiano on row 14. Victoria Farfus completes the 29 runners in this one. This is groups D and F. In their qualifying heat, match against one another in OK Junior. And in a few moments' time, it'll be over to that man over there, Martin Bean, to get this race underway. Air temperature 22 degrees, track dry, still a bit breezy, not as strong a wind though as it was first thing this morning, Anthony.
You say that, however, I'm still seeing the grass moving out there quite a bit, and it's not long grass there, meaning that there is still a bit of a breeze. Especially that headwind down the start-finish straight. That's still the most prominent thing we will be seeing throughout this one, which is good because, well, it's good for us because we get to see some nice close racing because we've always seen that slipstream come into effect. It's not helped out race control, though. They've had some nightmares with dealing with those races down in towards turn number 1 and 2 with Joanna Falcao in the middle, David Manchester and Sam Fisher in race control. Here we go then, into the tram lights. Oh, first race back. We're going round again. That lunch break didn't help them out too much, did it?
No, not quite. Other drivers who I'm seeing need a big one in this round, just to give them a bit of comfort more than anything. Andrea Mani, at the moment, 10th. A DQ and 6th. I've got us currently outside the top 36. Now, he's still very much within range. You know, 2 good results the rest of this afternoon, and then another one in the superheat tomorrow, and Manny will be in the final. But it's still on that that kind of cusp at the moment, that tipping balance as to whether it's going to be a good weekend for Andrea Manny or a not so good weekend. There are your scores in the qualifying heats. Just to remind you, we are midway through round number 4, so some of those drivers on your screens have already done their 4th race here this weekend. So Collegia on 171, Baglin 163, Tal 157, Sulfikari, Phillips 147, Samchik 140 from a possible 200. That will all change, of course, across the course of this next 8-lap race, and of course the one after it, to bring us to the end of round 4, penultimate round of qualifying heats here at Portimao for Champions of the Future round 2.
Certainly so. Here we go then, up into that final corner. Second time's a charm then for groups D versus F as they enter the tram lines. They're going round again. That is another false start, and this is going to start to be a little bit of an interesting moment because one more and they might get stopped, and we might see some penalties go out, or if not penalties, investigations going out for why are we going around again?
Indeed. So they've kind of used all of their get out of jail free cards as things stand. So Lucas Sell will be thinking through how to get this right. I'm just keeping an eye on the officials to see whether any of them move towards the drivers. We can sometimes see flags put out after 2 false starts just to really remind the drivers you've got to get it right this next time around. I don't think we're quite at that stage yet. So Lucas Sell will go through the procedures once again, getting heat into the tyres. Most of the runners towards the front of the field carrying on with their tyres from earlier on in the weekend. Graced, of course, with slightly cooler track temperatures because of that wind that's whipping through the circuit. Just as a reminder, your highest runner with new tyres is Maxim Bobrashov, who is starting on the 5th row of the grid.
Right, Third time's a charm, into the tram lines, lights are out. Here we go, we are racing down towards turn number 1. And it's a good start for the inside road. Where is Andrea Manni going to end up in this one? He's going to slot into about P4. As they head down into that one, he's going to lose out on P4 maybe, or maybe even get up into third place. He does get up into third place, so it's a relatively decent start for him. There is smoke kicked up in the background. Some karts have not made it through the first few corners unscathed, and they do involve the likes of Tony Kart Racing Team driver Julian Frasnelli is one of them, Vanessa Schilkalenta is another, and Asher Osteen is the other. But eyes on the front here, it is the victory lane that leads the way, but unfortunately for one, the number 38 Fusion kart of Asher Osteen, he will go. Well, he'll try to rejoin, he does rejoin, and he gets back into this race.
Very tricky situation there. Julian Frasnelli's omitted part of the circuit and rejoined just before turn 7, right in front of the leaders, was trying to slow down and get out of the way, but it's one of the tightest bits of the course. Sell did very, very well indeed to not lose track position as a result of that. He won't have been expecting to come around and find a Tony Kart in the middle of the circuit on the approach to that second major braking zone, but he did. Miguez has had a good start as well, Anthony. He's been a bit off colour in the last 2 rounds of heats, but we saw Miguez be very, very quick in round number 1. He's opened the door there, though, for Manni to step down the inside, retake second place. Oliver Warner bright again there in the Ricky Flynn machine, having a good scrap. Has just lost 1 place there, but is very much in it with a good chance of points here.
He certainly is, and all these drivers are in a nice little scrap now, because look how close that field is together. Once again, like we saw in a race earlier on, the timing can't make heads or tails of who's at the front, who's at the back, purely because they are so close together. Look at that train making its way up the hill now as there, Henry Kumban is still in a really good position right now, and that Tony Kart pushing his way through the field, but keep a close eye on the field as they're going a little bit side by side in the background there. There they are. That's Mats van Rooyen having to deal with the likes of Mark Pilapenko. But they sort themselves out as Maxim Bobrikov now starts to get involved in that fight. You can see him right there, but certainly having a good little battle inside that top 10.
And if the team have got the tyre pressures right on Bobrikov's number 18, that's going to be a quick kart over the next 5.5 laps of this race. 58.78 is the pace at the moment for Casper Reipold. It's a bit further down the order, of course, but has had good speed at times this weekend. P22 at the moment. He's having a fight with Osachi Soslovsky in the 71-4 21st position. Nice rhythm at the front of the field at the moment, Anthony. A lot of these drivers, I feel, in the first 10 or so, knowing that they've got good results on the board so far, just need to pace their way through this one. Don't need to do anything too rash, just trying to hold themselves where they are in their positions in the intermediate classification.
Yeah, certainly so. Lap number 4 now, halfway point of this race, and so far relatively calm between these drivers. They're close out there, but we've not seen too many dramas as down the inside. Now here's our first one of the dramas, Mats van Rooyen again on Mark Pilapenko, and just getting his way through. In fact, I think that's a little higher up in the order, actually, that we're seeing. Is that to the likes of Manuel Miguez going for the battle? Yes, it is. Getting into second place, and that's a nice little overtake there. Pushing his way up. Now he can try and focus on closing in on Sells, who is still right there, only clear by 0.2 of a second. He's not been able to break away. Again, a lot of these drivers in this top section have not deployed the tyres. It's where Bobrikov is. Bobrijov's in P6. He's gained 4 places. He's on the charge. He's in that pack, and he's got those fresh tyres on board.
Has indeed. Another interesting point for me, Anthony, and I may just be reading too much into this.
Go on.
Miguez's pace through rounds 2 and 3 dropped off a bit. Now here in round 4, we're about the same time of day, where we, of course, won a heat in round 1. So is it just that the CRG is a bit on the knife edge at the moment in terms of whether it switches on or not? And right here at 2:15 local time, it seems to like this time of day here in Portugal. Miguez closing in on Sell. I think he's going to be a bit too far back there to have a go into turn 8. He's definitely putting the French driver under a bit of pressure.
Certainly is, and with Manni and Warner just tripping over each other slightly on this lap on turn 2, they've lost out a bit of time, and now you're seeing just these two breaking away. If Miguez sees that behind him, he might think, right, I'm clear to go for the move. And this was that tripping over the two of them. You can just see down the inside, This was Warner getting the move down the inside, just clips that rear bumper of Andrea Mani, and it just unsettles him enough to really back that pack up into each other. And that battle is going to rage on once more, the same as the battle for the lead as well. Warner down the inside, but Miguez and Zell are going on a defensive line battle here between the two of them. Miguez with the fastest lap of the race. He's got that pace. He he just needs to get the place.
He does, and he needs to do it pretty quickly because Zell's defensive work here is going to bring Warner and Manny and the others back in. I reckon Miguez has got the pace to overtake and then stay ahead based on what we've seen the last few laps, but it's all about picking the moment. Here's a good opportunity into turn 13. And you see again, Zell, just another slight defence there. It's not too hard a defence, but they are losing time to Warner. He's taken probably 1/10, 2/10 out of them on this lap. We're going to round the final corner to complete lap number 6, 2 to go. The gap holding at least through sector 3 that time around. Zell defensive again into turn number 2. Not losing too much time though on that occasion. Manuel Miguez, I imagine here, Anthony, feeling a bit frustrated. A
little bit, but he's going to go to the outside here. He's lining up the switch over out of the exit of turn 5, but it's an uphill battle from here. It's not going to work out. He might be able to set something up in towards turn 8 and 9. This is where we see most of the overtakes, but again, thinks against it. He sees the slightly defensive line from Zell and then just backs out of it. He will need to be careful here, though, because Warner is closing in, and if he does not go for the move, he might have to find himself defending from Warner behind.
Yeah, and Mark Pilipenko is closing in. Pilipenko just put in the fastest lap of the race so far. You could just see him there flash through the back of shot in the Fusion Motorsports car. That's the Kart Republic chassis with the blue and orange paintwork over the line. Last lap board is out. Zell still leads this one. He's got good top speed, which helps him down into turn 2. Miguez is trying to do the cut back there. Ooh. There's a little bit of a nudge through turn number 3, but still Zell holds on. Warner also waiting for the opportunity, checking over the shoulder, seeing that Pilipenko is closing in. Cumberland's not too far behind. Also, there's a lot on the line here on this final lap for the penultimate heat for all of these drivers. Miguez, half on the attack, half on the defence, just cannot find a way through.
No, he just can't. He's stayed behind now, and I think he's going to have to back out of trying to go for this lead because he'll think he will be swallowed into the pack here. Mats van Rooyen, unfortunately, has been given a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision out on circuit, so that will drop him well down in the order at the end of this one. Out into the final corners then. There was no change between these drivers. Lucas Zell's going to claim victory here in his penultimate race of the day as he makes his way across the line, clear by 0.2 of a second from Manuel Miguez, who at the end just couldn't quite get that move done. Oliver Warner finishes in P3 ahead of Mark Pilipenko. Henry Constant Kumpin, great race for him, 5th place. Overall, a nice little battle for Andrea Mani. Just misses out on that top 5 finish, dropping 4 places from the front row of the grid to finish in P6.
And another winner. Yeah. Another winner in OK Junior, just again reiterating how open and competitive this category is here at Portimao. Zell wins from Miguez, Warner, Pilipenko, Kumpin and Mani. Angelina Simmons-Torres up 7 spots to 7th. Good drive from Angelina there for DPK. Maxim Bobrishov maybe would have expected a bit more considering there was new Maxxis tyres on that kart, only P8. Bonham P9, Hernandez, Emiliano Hernandez, that's a good drive after retirement earlier on, P10. Bosco Arias coming through the field once more, up 13 on that occasion to P11. Russo, Eskandari, Van Rooyen and Magnac completing the top 15. Decent results for Eskandari, but we'll need a bigger performance. I think in that 5th round is still, I think, in a dangerous spot for progression through to the super heats. Bertolicini, Lubimov, Rönitz, Farfus and Oliver all into the top 20. Particularly good drive there for Farfus, up 10. Osachi Soslovsky in P21. Guth, Wen, Malota and Rana take us down to 25th. Couple more finishes were Casper Reipold and Asher Augstein, 2 retirements from that race, Julian Frasnelli and Vanessa Schilkenater.
Indeed. Well, a competitive group there, actually relatively close at the end of that race, but here was the start of it for the front of the grid. Pretty calm, pretty well collected between the groups of them. It was only a little bit of a handful for the drivers nearer the back of the grid. Vanessa Schilkenoto, Julian Fresnelli and Asher Oshtein getting involved in a bit of a tangle at the exit of turn number 2 and into the entrance of turns 3 and 4. For some of them, they managed to get going. Asher Oshtein was one of them who did manage to get restarted. But at the front, initially for Lucasel, a great getaway and didn't really have too much drama.
And looked very calm throughout the entire race. Didn't seem like he was tensing up under the pressure at the very front of the field. A very assured drive. This further back that was the moment with Fresnelli. So Fresnelli had gone off at turn 4 and then rejoined on the exit of turn number 6. So that was a very impressive moment for me, for Sell to just be able to comprehend the situation that, oh dear, someone's had an off, they're going to be slow, they're going to let us back through, but not lose out to the likes of Miguez and others behind. Andrea Mani is back on track, I would say. Of course, would have liked more than 6th place in that race, but that's a result that should, over the course of these races in round 4, pull the driver in the number 67 back into the top 36. Sell continued up at the front, but it was the number 47 of Manuel Miguez, Anthony, who was really closing in that mid-phase.
He was closing in the mid-phase. So many drivers in that mid-pack were. And again, you can thank the deployment of those tyres that did help them out. Because, like you say, Hernandez was one of them who did gain a fair chunk of positions. We are going to take a short break. Do not go anywhere. More racing coming up next. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. If you are just joining us, you are watching live coverage of the Champions of the Future Round 2 live here from the Cartódromo Internacional do Algarve in the south of Portugal. Next race is coming up. Qualifying Heat D versus F is about to head to the track. And this will have the likes of Daniel Kelleher and Kenzo Craigie starting it on the front row of the grid. Both of these drivers here, Andrew, solid starts to their weekend so far.
Solid starts, but I wouldn't go as far to say as spectacular. I think this is quite a good chance for a lot of these drivers in this group to score big points and get a bit of momentum going again through these final 2 rounds of qualifying heats. Plenty of drivers who've had, double, if not triple, top 10s so far across the first 3 rounds. But you haven't got any of the drivers who are in the top 5 out there. I say an exception. Lewis Francis is your highest ranked driver in the intermediate classification at the end of round 3 in this one. So do keep an eye out for Lewis Francis, again, starting on row number 4. But yeah, for the likes of Kelleher, Craigie, Schilkunas, Werrell especially, who had a DQ earlier on, in the sequence of things, this is a good chance for them to go, right, get a race win, get 50 points, and move yourself back into contention for later in the weekend.
Yeah, certainly so. There is plenty of things these drivers can do. It's not over just yet for the majority of them. There is still plenty of races to go for them to gain those positions as the engines fire up. Drivers make their way out onto the circuit. Let's quickly fire you through that full starting lineup. It is Daniel Kelleher and Kenzo Craigie on row number 1. They will have the likes of Marcus Shilkunas and Lewis Werrell on row 2. Shilkunas having a very strong start to his racing weekend. Can confirm he is now Lithuanian again from the rest of them. Thomas Brodeur and Gino Rocchio, they round out row number 3. They will have Victor Gustafsson and Lewis Francis on row 4. Again, keep an eye on both of those drivers, two very experienced out on circuit. Clovis Nugared and Emilio Visto go from row number 5. They'll have Maria Neto and Armin Kari Osman on row number 6. Maria Neto going for a brand new set of tyres, one on the front right, one on the rear left for her. Vengard Clementson and Hugo Marti round out row number 7.
Bo Lowett and Oscar Gellan, they go from row number 8. Bernardo Minaldi will be on his own on row 9. Unfortunately, Scott Marsh is out of this meeting, suffered a fractured wrist in one of the heats yesterday. But we do wish Marsh the best of recoveries. Antonio Macedo and Paul Andriotis are on row 10. Sebastian Corpeng and Gabriela Teixeira on row 11. Francois Cadal and Eloy Gonzalez start on row 12. Keep an eye on Gonzalez. It had a tendency to drive through the field so far this weekend. Row 13, Sebastian Mins, another driver needing a big one in this race, and Francis Szechelski start on row 13. Carl Lutard and Matt Corby go from row 14. It's Radek Vavra and Daniel Harristay on an all-Czech row 15 to complete this 29-strong field with the admission of Scott Marsh. Did have a little quick chat to Scott in the lunch break. He's in decent spirits. Very common injury, of course, for Carter's a fractured wrist, but it's hopefully not too serious, and we'll see Scott back on the grid for probably not next weekend. That's going to be a bit of a tall order, but for the next round of OKJ and OK races later on in the summer.
Yeah, indeed. It's always one of those heartfelt feelings when you get an injury like that in karting, and especially in the early phases of the season as well. It's always a little disheartening, but we do send our best to him and for a speedy recovery. Here we go then into the tram lines. Are we going? First time of asking. Lights are out. We are racing, and it's a good start for both the inside and outside rows, but it will be Kelleher who will get the whole shot in towards turn 1. Shilkunas follows through as well. Craigie, who suffered a tense moment in the start of his race earlier on, has a better start this time around and slots into P4 from the front row of the grid. But there you can see Thomas Brodeur. He's got into 3rd place and he's pushing himself along nicely. Victor Gustafsson as well is just there in P5. He's had a relatively decent start as well. But the question remains is, where is Lewis Francis? The driver on that Kart Republic, who's had some good races earlier on, is fighting through the field. There is not going too well for Francois Cadal. The 236 is out of the race. The DPK driver will try and get it restarted, but that quite literally, no pun intended, is an uphill battle.
Yeah, that's not a good moment for Francois Cadal, who's been in and around the top 15 in race results so far this weekend. But as a driver starting in the second half of these fields in these heats, that could be a pivotal moment for the Swiss driver as to whether we see the 236 progressing onto the latter stages of this weekend. I'm very certain that was off there is one of the VDKs. That is the 282 out there. Looking at a bit of discomfort. Daniel Harristay, who started at the very back of the field. That could, again, be a driver who probably is not going to make it through to the 72-strong cut-off for the super heats tomorrow. Results of 28th, 28th, 23rd, and that won't be a good one either. I think that is realistically weekend over for the Czech driver.
Yeah, certainly so. Well, we'll see what happens later on with him if he will race out later on. There is Gustafsson going for a move in the background, getting past Lewis Werrell. I think Clovis Nugared has had a problem out there as well, because he is also tumbling down my timing screen, and there are still yellow flags into that final sector, so there should be no overtaking into this one. However, we are seeing some overtaking into that one, and they had not passed the green flag yet, because that's on the start-finish straight. And I will try and work out who that was, but there was definitely some side-by-side moments there. Crucially, though, at the front, Kelleher is in control of this one, setting the fastest lap of the race, and has broken away now by 0.6 of a second.
And this is where we could see Daniel Kelleher start to move back up through the order. At the moment, as things stand, he would be second in the intermediate classification. And, well, he started this round in 6th place. Had very good speed through free practice and TQ yesterday, now really starting to show it. Sebastian Mins seems like a changed driver yesterday. Yesterday was a really torrid one for Sebastian Mins, and he knew that he needed to race through all 3 rounds today very cleanly indeed to stand any chance of continuing further on into the weekend. Has gained 17 places so far in this race. We're on to lap number 4 now. Kelleher's lead is 1 second ahead of Rocchio. On your screens, there is Kenzo Craig in the 246 down the inside. Lovely stuff from the reigning OKJ world champion. Has stepped up to the senior category, of course, for 2025. Was playing around with the engine a little bit, I noted, at the very start of the race. Didn't look fully comfortable, but has gritted his teeth here as the Mercedes AMG Junior. This is a good drive, and he's back up to P2.
Well, cast your mind back to yesterday, Andrew. He did something very similar in one of his races as well, and he fell back a little bit at the start of that one. So maybe it's just something that he does. It's one of those things where he just checks that, you know, for what it's worth. I remember constantly when I was racing back in the day, I'd keep hitting the top of the spark plug to make sure it was still there. But maybe that's what he's doing. I don't know. You don't want to touch that too much, though, while the engine's going. You can get a bit of a shock of it. They keep going, though, in this race. We are halfway through it, lap 5 of 10. And still, Daniel Kelleher's lead maintains a strong gap of 1.4 seconds now from Kenzo Craigie. Emilio Koivisto sets the fastest lap of the race for the MP Kart Racing team. He had a good race earlier on, did Emilio Koivisto, and he seems to be maintaining that pace and commitment right now. You can just see him there in that second group, Shilkunas, Werrell and Koivisto just at the back of that one. As that's someone who's going a little bit slow out on track. That is Gabriela Teixeira, the Portuguese driver in the 285 for Kart Republic. Has clearly had an off somewhere because those tyres are covered in her home country's dust.
And I think that's going to be another, in terms of race results, there's still got a race to go, of course, but it's a very, very tall order now for Gabriela to continue on into the super heats. I had her around 87th place after the end of round number 3, so that's 23rd, 26th, 30th. You know, you've got to be getting top 15s reliably to get yourself A, through to the super heats, and then B, be in a position on the grid on those super heats to realistically give you a chance to punch your ticket through into Saturday's final. Lewis Francis looking quick in the second half of races again, Anthony. He's had a bit of misfortune in this race, that's why he's down in P10. But again, the longevity of the Australian's race pace is looking good. Quite a few race control messages in this one. Latest one, the number 243, that's Kopeng, is under investigation for a potential overtake under yellow flags.
Well, I did say it earlier on where there were yellow flags out in that final sector, and I thought I saw a 1 or 2 go for an overtake, so that may be that. There is Gabriela Teixeira, unfortunately, out of the race now, and will go no further in what is set to be her penultimate qualifying heat of the weekend, and that would be a huge shame if she doesn't make those super heats later on. Emilio Koivisto again, fastest lap of the race for the driver, currently sitting in P6, and again really starting to I think close in and put the pressure on the drivers up ahead. You can see that they've both got past Lewis Werrell. He is now fighting with the likes of Marcus Shilkunas, but so far not able to close in. This is the Gustafsson and Rocchio battle you're seeing on your screen. This is 3rd and 4th place, and I've got to say, for Victor Gustafsson, he's had some relatively calm races this weekend. We've not seen him fighting up at the sharp end. He's been inside the top 10, has the former KZ World Champion, but so far he's just been having, I think, a data collecting weekend. 2 drivers in a very similar situation here, Anthony. Both of them have had 2 decent results and a DNF in the 3 rounds so far, though. So they're hovering just outside the top 36, at least going into this round of heat. So 3rd and 4th for both of them would, similar to what we talked about with Andrea Mani in the junior category, would pull them in the right direction. But yeah, I agree with Gustafsson. It's not been his 100% best. The CRG's very almost digital in their performance so far this weekend. Sometimes they can be absolutely rapid, and then other times they just get kind of missed back into the ether. There was a nice move. That was Koivisto down the inside of Shilkunas for
at 5th place. We are on the latter stages of this one now, around to the end of lap number 8. 2 to go. Kelleher continuing to do a great job here, Anthony. He's been holding that gap consistently at 1.5 seconds as Gustafsson goes down the inside. That's more like it from Gustafsson, and he's up to 3rd place.
Well, there you go. That's just a showcase of a seasoned driver who knows how to get a good overtaking just at the right time. Has waited, sat behind Rocchio. Yes, okay, granted, he's probably made the calculation that, okay, I can see the drivers up ahead. They are nowhere near close enough for me to really worry about getting past as quickly as I can and trying to catch up with them. He knows that's not going to happen. He knows the best result he was going to get was the 3rd place, and he just wanted to make sure that that 3rd place overtake was clean and efficient, and it certainly was.
Absolutely. Biggest mover in this race is Matt Corby. Started this one 28th, is now up to 13th. Deployed his newer tyres quite early on in the competition in the 2nd round of heats yesterday. Maybe just gave them a heat cycle and put them to one side and has put them back on again for this race. There's a bit of speculation there. Final lap board has been shown. Race leader is still at 1.5 seconds. The gap back to Kenzo Craigie. This fight for 3rd, 4th and 5th isn't done though. Koivisto looking keen here, Anthony, to get another move in past Rocchio down into turn 8 in a moment's time. Rocchio, of course, defends through that part of the circuit. No way through at the moment for the 217.
No, he stays behind just for the time being. Koivisto has done a good job with setting those constant fastest laps over the course of this race, but not having to worry too much about it. Shilkunis going defensive from Lewis Werrell in the dying stage of this one. Werrell will go side by side with him into the penultimate corner, but won't have the gusto to get it done. Daniel Kelleher, though, meanwhile, is clear by 2.2 seconds from the rest of the field, claims that win. And does that mean he's another senior winner in my books there, Andrew? Yep. I believe he is.
Yeah, that one's been coming. That one's been coming throughout the whole weekend and the race week so far. Every time Danny Kelleher has stepped out on circuit, he has looked quick, and he's now got a qualifying heat victory on his scorecard, and he's looking pretty good. Will at least move into the top 5 once everyone has raced in round number 4, because he's hopped ahead of Lewis Francis in the intermediate classification with that result. Kelleher from Craigie, Gustafsson, Rocchio, Koivisto, your top 5. Shilkunas, Werrell, Neto, Boet and Mins take us down to 10th place. Another good drive there from Sebastian Mins, up 15 spots. Vegard Clementson was P11 ahead of Thomas Pradier. Not quite able to shine like he did in round 3. Matt Corby was your biggest mover, up 15 spots to 13th. Lewis Francis and Amin Kara Osman completed the top 15. Hugo Marti, Eloy Gonzalez, Oscar Gallen, Sebastian Kopeng and Antonio Macedo take us down to 20th. Clovis Nured in P21 for CRG ahead of Karl Lutard. Franciszek Szczejelski started in 26th, finished 23rd, was ahead of Radek Vavra. Tough weekend for Paul Andriotis in the Energy course, was P25 in that one ahead of Bernardo Benaldi, who was the last of the finishers. 3 retirements from that one to share. Cadal and Harristay Marsh did not take the start.
Have a look at the highlights from that race as they went down for the start of that race. It was, again, a long time coming for these drivers, but for Lewis Francis, a great start for him initially, able to beat that outside row. Craigie in the end of that one, slotting into around P4 at the start, but Daniel Kelleher free to go for a lights to flag all the way to the end of that one. No real drama for him. There was some drama in the background though. Daniel Harritsay in the early stages, he had a moment and I think he came away with a little bit more than he'd hoped for after that incident. Other moments saw Francois Cadal and Gabriela Teixeira have moments. Craigie on the charge through the early stages, getting past Gino Rocchio at the beginning of that one, later pushing through. There was the moment for Gabriela Teixeira. Not sure if that was would just breakdown, mechanical in nature, or did she go off the circuit? The tyres suggested that she went off the track, but yeah, not sure what caused it.
Either way, though, it's a 4th result for Teixeira that's not one really to write home about. It's going to leave her a little bit too much to do, I think, in round number 5. Coming round to the finish, though, I don't think Danny Kelleher will have many easier victories than that across the course of the 2025 international karting season. A very, very convincing victory by 2.2 seconds. That leaves the picture in the intermediate points looking like this. Of course, there's still one more race to go in seniors. Martinez from Kelleher, Francis Craigie, Gast, Joe Turney will have an opportunity to retake the lead in a short moment's time. For now, though, we're going to take another break here at Portimao and be back with OK Junior after this.
It makes life a lot easier out the track, so you don't have to worry about school and on-track performance and grades and all that sort of stuff.
The school understands exactly what I'm doing. They understand, how important it is for me, and the schedule that they, cater for me is really well balanced, and I really enjoy it.
It's a very fine balance between his sporting career and also his studies. He doesn't have to compromise on either. I'm very happy that Meneva has supported us through this journey.
The communication is great, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think MVA would help a lot of other races. A lot of people come into the track and asking about it. What do you do for homeschool? Like, how does it work? And I always say, Minerva, you need to contact them and get going with them, because it's made my life so much easier.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Champions of the Future Round 2, live here from the Portimao circuit in Portugal. OK Junior qualifying Heat A versus C is coming up next to their 8-lap, 12-kilometre race distance. And this one starts with two protagonists that I would very much like to see battle with each other. Henry Domain and Antonio Pizzonia starting this one on the front row of the grid. There is Henry Domain, and, well, like clockwork that we've always seen in a fair few of these groups, Andrew, they have switched sides.
Yeah, they have indeed. Henry Domain taking a bit of a leaf out of some of the seniors' books. If you're just joining us, the reason why a lot of them do this here at Portimao is you can take a really, really speedy run through turn 1 and not have so much. If you can get it right, you don't have as much pressure once you get to turn 2. And of course, it can also set back whoever's due to start third into the pack a little bit. Because if you imagine on a normal start, driver's right-hand side have a little bit of an edge over driver's left. That, of course, then switches around with the pole sitter moving to the left-hand side, but the driver sitting in third place still has to start on driver's right. So sometimes they can just be held up a little bit. We've seen that in the seniors. And you look at who's in third place on this grid, Eli Christian, very quick driver. If that is a tactical one, that's a shrewd play by Domain to go, yep, that's a rival that we don't want to have on our tail going into the first couple of corners. Let's see if that shuffles him back a little bit.
No, exactly that. And that has been what we felt is the ploy that we've seen deployed throughout many of them. Now, I'm just noticing is there one or two gaps there in that grid that I'm seeing? Not too sure if there's one or two drivers missing from this grid. Someone who definitely isn't missing is the driver you were just talking about there, Eli Christian of Canada, current championship leader in the OK Junior category after that great round in Campillos earlier on in the season in Spain. And now finds himself on that second row of the grid in what we've always said is the prime starting place, but not this time around, because that will go to the driver starting alongside him. The Bulgarian Alexander Lazarus will be starting with, I believe, his fellow teammate right in front of him. Now the two Forza Racing drivers on the Esprit racing karts will go line astern at the start of this race and will push each other along. Last few words of encouragement to Alexander as he primes himself ready to go for this one. I've got to say, it's now, we keep saying it along, it's the crunch time, it's the tense moment now for the drivers because it's getting to that stage. Is there anyone in this one, Andrew, that you're looking at that thinks, right, you need to have those good results now?
I'm going to go for Endo Arata. Needs a good one here. I've got the Japanese driver scored around 55th place. So yes, inside the top 72 cutoff, but that's a driver that you would expect to see in Saturday afternoon's final. So starting on the outside of row number 5, the main reason why Arata is down there, DQ yesterday and then a P26. Earlier on today, a lot better, P3. So keep an eye out there for the number 21 to race through the field, but has got to do it cleanly.
No, exactly that. So we'll keep a very close eye on that one as engines fire up. Drivers make their way out onto the circuit. Let's quickly fire you through that full starting lineup then ahead of qualifying heat A versus C. It will be Henry Domain and Antonio Pizzonia on row number 1. They will have Eli Christian and Alexander Lazarus on row 2. Turner Brown and Denny Babicek go from row 3. They will have Devin Waltz and Pietro Beguti on row number 4. Roland Nagy and Endo Rata, as you were saying, has got those points, needs to push through in this one. Starts on the 5th row of the grid. We'll have M. Purcell and Bruno Blanco for company just behind. The first half of the grid will have Gustavo Marquez de Silva and Tobias Echenny, who has gone for a brand new set of tyres on the left-hand side.
Row number 8, Marcel Szabo and Drew Waltz. Drew Waltz has had a good run so far, looking to continue good, positive form. Alfonso Lopez and Yanis Kolovos go from row 9. Abir Samarov and Jarlath Sayer complete the top 20 on row 10. Xavier Dudkovsky and Michael McGoy go from row number 11. Some good drives through the field from the Americans so far this week. Felipe Sanchez and Mariano Lopez go from row 12. Nilas Malik and Victor Stalmach start on row 13. It's then Emilia Vashmerska and Juan Garciase on row 14. It's a 30-strong field completed by row 15, Gregor Callas and Just Mulder.
Indeed, packed grid, 30 drivers out in this one. All 30 drivers are out in this one. I thought I saw a gap in the grid earlier on. No, it was just someone who was just slightly askew on the grid. Field making their way around the infield section of the circuit now, getting the temperature into those tyres at their optimal operating window, which at some parts of the circuit, even on a flying lap, can drop down to around 60 degrees Celsius out there. So huge fluctuations in tyre temperature that can happen over the course of this lap. And like you say, in some parts can exceed in excess of 110 Celsius, and they can drop down to around 60 at some parts. So a very interesting one. Denny Babicek on my screen, not clocking up in any sectors. He is definitely there. I've seen him. So has he got some troubles aboard his wagon there? Because he's definitely there. I can see him. He's in his 6th place spot. However, he's not clocking up on my timing screen. So hopefully that'll be one we'll have to keep an eye on throughout this race. Eyes on the lights then for the drivers as they make their way into the final corner. Tram lines await. Are we going racing? No, we're not. We're going around again. I think they were a little bit too eager on that loud pedal there.
Yeah, just coming out of the last corner. Got to wait till that acceleration line, particularly as it's a tight turn 17 here at Portimao. This is another one of those heats. We've talked about Arata already, but when I look at the relative positions of drivers after round 3, none of the top 5 at the end of round 3 currently in this one. And we've seen again through the first 2 races in Junior in this 4th round, lots of chopping and changing, lots of drivers who'd had 3 good ones, then have a bad one. This is another really strong opportunity for the likes of your Pitsonia Juniors, Babicek, Devin Waltz, Turner Brown. They're all outside that top 5 at the moment. If they can have a good one here, continue that form into the 5th and final round later on this afternoon, they could really be making strides, but they've got to go out there and do it to deliver those results. Air temperature still 22 degrees. Track is, of course, dry, quite windy across the circuit. Looks like we are set and ready for this latest OK Junior heat between groups A and C.
Indeed. Well, it looks good this time around. Nice and bunched up. Remember, they have to wait really until they're round the final corner until they start hitting that loud pedal. They start to do it now. It's a little early, but I think they're good. And the lights do go out. We are racing, and it's a good start then for Domain on the outside of row number 1 as he switched sides of the grid. He brings Lazarus with him as they now go 1-2 in towards turn number 2 and 3. They don't all make it through though. There are carts off in the background. I think about 3 or 4 carts. Looks like they're out of their wagons, but also out of the race, which is a big shame for them. That's not including the likes of, I think, Roland Nagy was the highest ranked driver of one of them, and I think Yanis Kolovos of Greece for the DPK team also is another. But the race continues at the front. There they are on your screen. And one's given up, and that looks like Yanis Kolovos is going to give it a go if he can get that one started, but I don't think he has got it done. No, he hasn't, so he's out of the race. Eyes focus then on the front. It is still Domain and Lazarus, 1 and 2, but Denny Babacek is on the charge here. He's there in third place, and right on the rear bumper, he might be going for second place anytime soon now, Andrew.
Yeah, he's looking in with a really good chance here of getting past Lazarus as they head towards turn number 2. Other changes in position further down there. Eli Christian, this is a big race as Babacek makes the move. Nice stuff there from Denny Babacek down the inside. Not in a conventional point of the circuit as well, so that'll be a satisfying one for the Teps Racing team. Now they've got to break away because there is Endo Arata, the driver we said to keep an eye on in terms of the intermediate classification, is already up to P4 in this one. That's a gain of 6. That's the kind of result that we're looking for the Japanese driver to move from, as I say, around 50th, 55th place at the moment in the IC. That's another sweet one down the inside of Lazarus. Endo Arata already back up to the P3 position that we saw be secured in the previous round of heats.
Indeed. Well, they're ending this lap now onto the start-finish straight, and still Domain in control of this one. Endo Arata, you were saying he needed that good race. He's doing that right now, like you say, up to P3 with those 7 places gained. But this one is still all open now for them. Big send down the inside there in towards turn number 2 and 3. That's how you do it, says Bruno Blanco, and pushes himself up nicely through the field now, and Lazarus has gone down to P7, so that start not gone the way for him now as he's getting squeezed into the pack here.
And this is where maybe a bit of experience is starting to come into play. It's a great performance from Lazarus yesterday, but he is the new kid on the block in terms of that Forza Racing setup. He's racing against individuals who've got more experience, they're a bit more comfortable with the category, whether they've had a good amount of testing before this season. Is there down the inside. That was the number 54 of Devin Waltz. Well, we saw Devin racing a lot, of course, in 2024. And it's almost as sometimes as a driver, you can almost get a bit punch drunk of like one comes through and it says then to the rest of the drivers, a group of drivers of 6 or 7 behind, that you're vulnerable, that if someone goes for a big move down the inside, you're going to jump out of the way, and it can take a bit of a while to get back into a rhythm. Lazarus is still doing a good job. I think the target of make the final is still very much on for Lazarus, despite the fact that he's moved down now to 16th place.
Yeah, indeed. But there's a look at your points currently right now, where Babacek in second is putting himself up into third. That's not gone too well at all for the Birillard driver of Gustavo Marquez de Silva. He is going very slowly out on track. Clearly had a moment out on circuit. Not sure where. Eyes on the rest. And I think Pizzonia has gone with him as well, because Antonio Pizzonia has dropped down 19 places there. Driver who started on the front row of the grid. Not been his day, has it?
No, it's not quite seen the repeat of those 2/3 from the 2 rounds yesterday for Pizzonia Jr. There is Gustavo Marquez de Silva, I think, just trying to return to the part of the pack where he was. That would indicate that he's had a bit of a mitting part of the circuit moment. So don't believe the graphic on the screen there that says that he's gained 12 places to take the race lead. I mean, he categorically had in terms of the timing and scoring, but hadn't done it in a legal manner, shall we say. So we're on lap number 5 of 8. Bruno Blanco is currently the fastest driver out on circuit, currently 5th on the road. This is a good scrap. Babacek at the front of it. This is all over second place, Anthony.
It certainly is, and with that, they're allowing Domain to break away here. Babacek is now starting to really bunch up the pack now, as you can see the battles happening just behind. Brown pushing his way through, trying to get past, but no, stays at the back of that one. So still Domain who leads the way from Babacek, Endo Arata, Christian from Blanco, Brown still there. Here we go, 3 wide for second place. Who ordered that? I certainly didn't, but they're doing it anyway. And look at Brown, is that 1, maybe 2 places gained? It's a 2-for-1 special at turn number 3.
That's really nice stuff there from Turner Brown, who's then shuffled down the order, and he's lost those positions again. Eli Christian coming through, plus 5 second penalty for Marquez da Silva, so it goes from bad to worse for the number 63 on the Birrell ART. There is the number 82 of Bruno Blanco going a bit slow. That looked a bit strange there for Blanco. I wonder, was he just letting... I think he might have been letting Brown back through there, maybe just feeling that, yeah, he hadn't quite taken that position in a fair manner. So to avoid any further things from the race officials, he's just taken things into his own hand, given Turner Brown the position back.
Yeah, indeed. Well, that race continues on, and now on to lap 7. Look at the direction changes there. Babacek and Endo Arata all over the road here to try and break each other's toe and push through. Kristen's still there as well. I mean, I'm loving this one. You've got a Teps Racing team, you've got a Ward Racing, you've got a Tony Kart, you've got 2 satellites and 1 factory, all battling on the same equipment, but all in different teams. And they're all over the road together. And they've all seemingly got that same little dent in that NASA panel as they've got across the board. So clearly something with the front nose there that makes that happen. But these 3 drivers really pushing as hard as they can. They're as well just behind Turner Brown. He's trying to get past all 3 of them. But right now he's just thinking, right, let's see what we can do. I tried it once earlier on. It didn't work out for him. He'll try again, I'm sure. Out of the final corner they go, on to the last lap of this race. And this is the battle for P2. Babacek, Endo Arata, Eli Christian, Turner Brown take us to the end.
That's good stuff from these 4. Oh, Turner Brown round the outside. I thought he was going to do both of them there, but just gets Christian instead. Of course, on the LN chassis, there's a lot of technology shared between what Turner Brown is running and these other 3 in this part of the field. Drew Waltz is your fastest driver at the end of this race. Once again, Arata knowing that every single point is important, every single position is key, having had a bad start to these qualifying heats 24 hours ago, but still Babacek will not yield here as one of the younger drivers in this category, but has a lot of experience through the lower ladders, the lower rungs of the ladder in karting. He's now breaking away from Arata, Endo Arata there, but Domain over the line. Domain definitely back in the rhythm. That win, despite the DNF yesterday in round 2, moves Domain back up to P5 in the intermediate classification. A dominant performance. Babacek 2 seconds back. Endo Arata, Turner Brown and Eli Christian complete the top 5.
They certainly do. Well, good drive from them. They will make their way back to Parc Ferme. Andrew Mather will make his way down there to have a chat with 1 or 2 of them as they get themselves sorted out. But as you can see in the end, Jos Mulder being the biggest gainer in that race. 17 places gained. He finished just outside the top 10, P13. Overall. Well, they'll make their way back to Parc Ferme. Here's a look at your full classification at the end of that one. Domain from Babacek, Endo Arata from Turner Brown, Eli Christian from Devin Waltz, Bruno Blanco from Jarlis Sayer, Tobias Jenny and Pietro Baguti round out the top 10. Waltz from De Silva, Mulder from Lopez, Lazarus from Dudkovsky, Marcel Sebu from the rest of the field, Purcell, Lopez, Malik, Stalmack, Gathiase, Pizzonia, Vishamirska, Sanchez, Callis and McGoy, who round out the 27 finishers in that race. The 3 retirements, Savarov, Nagy and Kolovos, unfortunately, not finishing at that race. Savarov with 5 laps to go. Nagy and Kolovos on the opening lap of that race. Well, those drivers get everything sorted out with just, I think, 1 more race for A and C to go later on today. They have this race, yeah, and then it will be groups A and F later on today. So that was their penultimate race. 1 more for groups A and C to go today. And for Domain, that win there certainly puts him in a good spot now. P5 in that intermediate classification, ahead of his last race later on today. Here's have a look at those highlights, and again with Domain switching sides, he brought Lazarus with him, so it was a Fusion Forza 1-2, sorry, as they made their way down in towards turn number 2 and 3 for the first time. Of course, drama did ensue in the background there. You could just see it. Drivers getting squeezed in that early stage. Yanis Kolovos, I think, was just sandwiched there right at the beginning, and he just got sent into a spin. Early overtakes then from Denny Babacek, getting up into second place and holding on to that one for the majority of it. Endo Arata as well with those good overtakes, getting up into P3. Then it was the likes of Ilya Christian who was fighting it back, and then that put it 3 of those OT karts into formation. Turnaround certainly made it interesting for that group of drivers in ahead as he tried to get 2 for 1 in towards turn 3 and 4. Later at turn number 5, getting spat out of the pack and then getting squeezed back down to P5 and not being able to push through. Bruno Blanco part of that fight. Domain, though, continued his drive to the end of that one. A solid drive nonetheless, and he heads into his final race later on today, sitting 5th in the points. But it's Babacek who finished 2nd in that race, who will be 3rd going into their last race later on. But of course, there'll be plenty more races to change that order as juniors will be out a little bit later. Let's head down to Parc Ferme. Andrew Mather, over to you.
Thank you very much, Anthony, here with our latest race winner, Henry Domain. Henry, a good weekend continues. That looked like a pretty easy drive for you.
Yeah, I was just trying to be as consistent as possible. Obviously, it's very difficult now with the winds being out front alone. Like everyone with the slipstream, they can catch a lot down the straight, so it was very difficult to stay in the lead there.
Have you had to make any setup changes for that wind in comparison to yesterday?
No, we've been very fast all week, and yeah, the pace has kind of been shown in that heat to take the win.
And despite a little bit of a moment yesterday in the second round of heats, are you confident that race pace is still there?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that we had the DNF, but yeah, the race pace is definitely there.
Good stuff. Well, Henry, thank you for your time. We'll see you in that 5th round of heats later on.
Thank you.
Good stuff there from Henry Domain. Another win in the books. Anthony, let's move to the next race.
Thank you very much, Andrew Mather down there in Parc Ferme, and clearly you can see wind still blowing quite fiercely out there, and it's still that headwind down that start-finish straight that has been plaguing the drivers just a little bit so far today. OK, senior qualifying Heat A versus C. That is the next race to head out onto the circuit, and it all starts once again with the man who currently leads that intermediate classification, Joe Turney, who sits right at the sharp end of that order, is in a really strong position of this one. Reports from the pre-grid, he has once again decided to switch sides of the grid. He had a very close fight earlier on with Christian Costoya, and again he is choosing to switch the sides of the grid to prevent any battling like he saw earlier on. That means that Filippo Sala will be on the inside line. Sala, who himself has had a pretty dramatic day today, had those mechanical gremlins earlier on where his car just ground to a halt. Now, hopefully, he is all good, and they found the problem with that wagon, and now he can focus on the race ahead, albeit now he'll have Christian Costoya right behind him for this race. To give a slight understanding where we are in the senior points, it is Martinez who does lead the way at the moment with 182. Turney does sit 6th in those points with 144. He lost out on the actual win in this last race, but still a very strong result. So he's not got maximum points to his name right now, but he is still probably the best ranked driver so far this weekend to this point. Of course, and we'll see what happens in this next coming race. Louis Cochet as well, definitely a driver to keep an eye on. Some solid results over the course of this weekend, and starts this one on the 2nd row of the grid, as well as the rest of the drivers. And again, with that, a lot of deployment of fresh tyres have gone out for some of the drivers in the back of the field, as again, at this point of the weekend, they have to try and push themselves forward. There's a nice look at some of the hard-working marshals and officials here at the circuit. Without their dedicated support, we could not go racing this weekend. So we do take our hats to them and say a big thank you to the Orange Army and the full marshalling team here at the Portimao circuit in Portugal. They've been doing some brilliant work of battling the windy conditions here, Andrew, and you've just been outside. I could see we nearly lost you in the breeze there. How is it?
Fresh is the word I'm going to use. It is quite blustery out there. I think the most careful thing you've got to be is when you're opening doors, because it can be ripped out of your hand. But no, it's still good racing conditions, I think, for the drivers, and good for us neutrals in the box, because that headwind's still very strong down the pit straight. Might actually make things a little bit tricky into turn 2, because it's almost a crosswind by the time you get into that braking zone. But we've seen a lot more overtaking today than we saw in the 2 heats yesterday. So it's all good indication that that's going to continue.
Yeah, certainly so. Engines get fired up then, albeit one of them just coughing into life there. Yes, it does. No dramas there whatsoever. As they head out onto the circuit, let's take you through that full starting lineup, as another 1 or 2 karts there, just a little slow off the line, but they get going now nonetheless. Joe Turney, once again, starting this one on the front row of the grid, this time joined with Filippo Sala, and once more they have switched sides of the grid, and we'll have to see what Turney can do from the outside of row number 1. Kostoya and Kashay go from row 2. They will have Jacob Mikalev and Elliot Kaczynski on row number 3. Vladimir Vanikov and Oliver Rasmussen, they go from row 4. They'll have Aston Sharp and Boris Lysen on row number 5. Davide Wataro and Jorn Helder go from row 6. And the first of those tyre changes, we'll see Roman Kamyab with a brand new set on the left-hand side, with Alexander Chartier starting alongside him.
Zach Green and Kuba Kamenik start on row number 8. Kara Furhand and Maximilian Rafalik go from row 9. It's Sky Parker and Lucas Gayson who completes the top 20. Makar Savalev and Ella Hakkinen, they go from row number 11. It's Daniel Paconi and Sunan Z starting on row number 12. Silianos Kolovos of Greece is on row 13 and joined by Argentina's Foster Arnaudo. Alois Girardet and Luc Corda go from row 14. Romeo Roussel and Maximo Tovagino start on row 15. France's Mathis Omoter starts on row number 16. It's a 31-strong field. And Anthony, I'm just looking again at the relative positions of drivers before this third round of heat. I think this one's going to be a big old scrap because you've got a group of drivers, Lysen, Batara, Helder, Kamyab, Chartier, all of those kind of like just inside the first half of the field. All need a big result here to just pull themselves again towards the top 36. Not that that's a concern for this next cut-off for the superheats, but again, there's a lot of names in that list who would want to go deep into the weekend, have good grid positions for the finals, but at the moment, they're not quite making it even into the big race tomorrow.
No, and the one that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on is Roman Kamyab. Brand new set of tyres on that left-hand side. What can he do from the 7th row of the grid? Lights are not out. They are going around again. This time around, first time for, I think, the series in quite a while we're seeing them go around again.
We love the, well, we love to speculate as well, but we love the tactics, don't we? And the gamesmanship and the dark arts, as we call them. We've been seeing this tactic for Turney of flipping the sides and being able to get a good start again and again and again. I wonder there if Sala was just a little bit slower, almost like toying with Turney as to whether he's going to accelerate before the time or not. So we go around again. It's second time of asking now. This is where the pressure goes up a little bit, but a driver of Joe Turney's experience should be able to deal with that. Filippo Sala wasn't in any kind of hurry on that occasion to draw alongside and get us going for this one. Kostoya, it's the same problem, isn't it, Anthony? That he's third on the grid, but won't be able to follow the pole sitter as they slam on the loud pedal. It's going to be key to see if Kostoya can hold himself. I'd say if he's in the top 4 at the end of lap 1, I'd give him a very good chance of winning this race.
Yeah, exactly that. And he was battling at the sharp end earlier on. We did see that. As again, mind games coming into play here. The tighter line, of course, that will then bring them together. And it looks like we're good to go. We are indeed good to go. And it's green lights. And we are racing down towards turn number 1. And look at that. The trio at the front breaking away. Turney from Koshey. And the rest, they've all gone through. Kaczynski there as well as they go wheel to wheel. Koshey back down the inside. Kaczynski off the circuit. As soon as he thought he had a good start, he's tumbled down the order and has now been swallowed by the pack. And who has got up into P4 and is closing them down? It is Christian Kostoya.
Yeah, Sala got a bit played there off the start. Turney got it absolutely spot on. And then, of course, Koshey and Kaczynski had their little dance down at turn number 4. There's some dust being kicked up in the background, so we have had some drivers hit some trouble in the early stages. How the drivers use their tyres now is really key. It's, Cachet down the inside. That was a bit of an abrupt one, didn't work. As out is the 303.
Matis Almer from the back of the grid. We saw him not go on track earlier on with mechanical gremlins, and I think that's more mechanical gremlins for the Frenchman, and that, I suspect, is weekend over. He will not make those superheats. That is a big, big shame for him.
Yeah, even with one race to go, the mathematics is simply not going to be on the side of Matis Almer, and in this case, it's been a tricky, tricky weekend. So Joe Turney's lead is 1.5 seconds. Sala has been able to get back up to P2. That is key, of course, for Sala's day. At the moment, wouldn't be in the top 8 of the intermediate classification standings. We need to keep an eye on how Costoya's doing, because right now he is losing position in that intermediate classification to both Martinez. Well, he was already losing out to Martinez, and he's now losing out to Kelleher, and he's now having a scrap with other drivers such as Boris Lysen. Boris Lysen coming through there in the KRZ Motorsport 262. He's been pretty quick in race trim so far this week as well. End of the second lap. Sala is pulling Turney in. That was a good lap from Sala, 57.112 for Turney, a 57.4.
So, and as they head down in towards turn number 5, I'm keeping an eye on those gaps here. And Sala just holding strong at 1.1 seconds away from Joe Turney, who still holds on to the lead here. This is Kaczynski behind Mikolev, still trying to make his way back through the order after that start mishap, going wide at the exit of turn number 4. But at this moment, still staying in a good position where he originally started, P6. So not losing out on too much in this race. However, he might lose out a bit here as Lysen sent it down the inside. And now Vladimir Ivanikov is trying to go down the inside as well, but no, he's not been able to find his way through. He stays behind, and Kaczynski continues to hold on to this race where it's just not falling into his hands here. Remember, a lot of these drivers haven't deployed those fresh tyres yet. It might be getting to the stage of this weekend where maybe they start to think about it before that superheat tomorrow.
Yeah, well, you'd rather hold the tyres for the superheat once we get to that point. But yeah, if you're starting to hit that point where the tyre can do no more, then maybe to play safe, it would be a good move to use those tyres in the 5th and final round. We shouldn't forget as well that Filippo Sala had a DNF in the previous round. So yes, he's on worn tyres, but they're not as worn as the drivers around him, perhaps. So that could be an advantage that Sala uses across the course of the remaining laps in this race. There is another move from Boris Lysen in the red and white KRZ machine. That time, that was getting past Jacob Mikolev in the 251 and up to 5th place.
We've got yellow flags out there and drivers walking away from karts, and I believe it's Maximilian Rafalik out of his wagon. It is indeed the driver of the 261. Going no further. He may have been involved in another one out there, because I think Rasmussen and Gayson, they are still in this race, but they have tumbled to the bottom of the grid.
Yeah, loss of 20 positions for Rasmussen as Boris Lysen comes flying through. Another driver who has got slightly fresher tyres due to bad moments earlier on where he didn't complete races on Thursday. Meanwhile, fighting a little bit further back there, so Ivanikov, the likes of Kaczynski, Aston Sharps having another good run, and then Jon Helder and Davide Battaro. That down the inside. That's a bold move being put in there by the Birol ART. That's Ivanikov. He's had a quiet weekend so far as Vladimir Ivanikov, but that's a nice move, and moving up through the order once again.
Yeah, Kaczynski able to follow suit as well, getting past Jakob Mikolev, so that's another 2 places he's lost there. Aston Sharp would be the next one on his list. Alexander Chartier has clearly had a moment out there as well, because he's also just tumbled down the order on my timing screen, so hopefully okay. There we go. Gayson with a 5-second time penalty for causing a collision. I think that is our man in the Victory Lane car that I was talking about there. Alexander Chartier, I think, potentially going off the circuit in that early stage. Race still going on, and, well, crucially, something interesting has happened. Joe Turney is being caught up by Filippo Sala, as there is Alexander Chartier, unfortunately, out of the race, but still maintains his composure in this one. But yeah, back at the front runners, that gap slows down to less than half a second here, Andrew.
It has indeed, but I do wonder, is this, again, the guile and the experience of Joe Turney, knowing, well, I only need to win this by a couple of tenths a second. I don't need a 2-second lead necessarily. And will he start now pushing on? He's basically had Filippo Sala. He's thrown the challenge to the Italian of, you've got to chase me down in this heat, Filippo. You've got to use up your tyres a little bit more than me in the first 7 laps of this race. Has Turney got something in reserve for the last 3? He doesn't necessarily need to win this race as well. Currently the lead for Turney in the intermediate classification is 12 points. It's a 6-point delta between first and second. So even if he lost track position here to Sala, he would still hold the lead in the intermediate classification over his fellow KR runner Jacopo Martinez. But given the fight that we've seen from Martinez so far today, I think Turney would rather keep that 12-point advantage, knowing it just takes the pressure off securing the full allocation of 25 championship points when we get to round 5.
Indeed. Well, he's responded to that gap. He's opened it back up a little bit here. Back to half a second now between himself and Sala. Continuing that charge on to the end of this one. Again, not the ideal perfect weekend for him. He had that second place earlier on, but still a brilliant weekend for Joe Turney so far. Great qualifying heats. And I say this with, because it happened last year, he had those moments where he would have a good qualifying heats weren't there. Or he would have a bad qualifying, and then the qualifying heats were there. But this year, that's all changed, and now he seems to be nailing both of them, and he just seems to be completely unbeatable this year.
Well, it was this stage of the season when we had the trips to Val d'Argenton last year where it really felt like that Joe Turney was back and had hit a new level with that consistency that, of course, then led him to the double of being Champions of the Future champion last year, and of course then went on to secure the European Championship in style in Kristianstad. And this is why, for me, he is almost like the maestro. He's the professor of this class in modern times. That yes, he's allowed Sala to close in, but not get within touching distance. And now he's controlling this one through to the end of the race. We've got 1.5 laps of this one to go. He's looking supremely in control. It would move him to 194 points from a possible 200, and would be in the knowledge of another top 2 in the final round, would secure him the full haul of championship points and, crucially, superheat pole tomorrow as well.
Yeah, exactly that. But we'll have to see what happens, because they head over the start-finish line now to see their last lap board, as unfortunately for Zach Green, he is the latest recipient of a warning flag, so he'll need to be careful at the end of this race for causing a collision there. It's brought me on to the subject of these tyres for Joe, and maybe why Costoya was going so hard on that battle earlier on. Maybe he's trying to make him battle to use those tyres a little bit. Again, all speculation.
Yeah, could well be, but every single question that's been asked of Joe Turney so far this weekend, he has come back with a fierce response. There was a medium period of this race where it looked like Sala was going to be able to challenge him, but once again, Joe Turney, with all of that experience that he has over the younger chargers in this field, remind us once again why he is talked about as one of the world's best, if not the best. Joe Turney wins another heat. That is 3 from 4. And he takes it by 0.8 of a second from Filippo Sala. Good effort there from Sala. That gets the Italian back on track after the DNF earlier on today. Louis Cachet gets another big haul of points. Third in that one will put the French driver into the top 5 in the intermediate classification. Christian Costoya, a solid result there, P4, but it does mean he loses out to Daniel Kelleher at this stage. One more round of heats to go. Costoya is 4th in the intermediate classification. Another great run from Boris Lyson as well. The problems of earlier on in the weekend have been put to bed. That's a gain of 5 for the Polish driver. And the all-Polish squad, KRZ, will be very happy indeed. Vladimir Ivanikov was P6. Kaczynski, Sharp, Mikolev and Kamyab take us down to P10. Kara Furhand Daniel Picconi, Fausto Arnaudo, some big drives in the mid-pack there. Picconi up 11, Arnaudo up 13, Jakub Kamenik P14 ahead of Alois Girardet. Good drive there from the Frenchman, up 12 spots to 15th. Stylianos Kolovos, Jon Helder, Zach Green, Makar Savalev and Romeo Roussel take us down to P20. 5 more finishers were Ella Hakkinen, Luke Kornder, Max Tovagino, Sky Parker and Oliver Rasmussen. A few retirements in that one, of course. Gayson Bataro, Sun, Shate, Rafalik and Omata did not see the checkered flag, but job done for round 4 for Joe Turney. Puts the cart back onto the trolley. That'll go, of course, into post-race scrutineering. Let's have a look at how Turney got his 3rd heats win of the weekend. Sala, not a good start, and it was advantage to those on drivers left as Turney led the field with Cachet and Kaczynski for company into the first couple of corners. Very tight as always down into turn number 2. But pretty much everyone would make it through the first couple of corners. Cachet would go for the move down the inside of Kaczynski. That would open the door for others to step through and take advantage of potential gains of position. Further back in the second half of the field, there was a bit of a rough moment for one of the victory lanes. Filippo Sala would fight back. A moment there before Cachet in one of the Tody carts would open the door for Sala to return back to the second place on which he'd started. But look at the lead that Joe Turney had even at the end of lap number 1. That really was the bedrock for Joe Turney to take this race when he didn't need to push overly hard from lap 2 to about lap 7. He allowed Sala to close in. Kostoya was in the mix of things once again, not quite able to pull through to second place like we've seen previously for Christian Kostoya. Boris Lysen there for KRZ Motorsport. Another positive result for him, up 5 places to 5th. And I would keep an eye on Boris Lysen. That move of materials is serving the Polish driver very, very well indeed. This was a good switchback moment there with Jacob Mikalev in the 251. The race continued. Out would go Alexander Chartier. Difficult moment there for the Canadian, who would be classified P29. And after a good attempt from Filippo Sala, got the gap down to around 0.4 of a second, Joe Turney stepped on the gas, brought it home, and we can now head down to Parc Ferme to Anthony Jordan, who's with our race winner.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yes, indeed, here with Joe Turney. Joe, fabulous race for you. Fabulous weekend so far for you as well, because not only a brilliant qualifying, but the qualifying heats have gone your way as well.
Yeah, so far so good. A little issue in the heat before, but no, back to winning ways now, so pace looks pretty good.
I want to go back to that heat from earlier on. A really tough fight. You were battling pretty wheel-to-wheel with Kostoya. What was your opinion on most of those? Because it looked like a pretty feisty battle between you two.
Yeah, it was for sure, but I mean, one of them was under yellow, so it was a bit sketchy. But yeah, the other two, I just thought they were a bit late, and then as soon as I saw him, I opened the steering to make sure we didn't crash. But there we go.
It's been a tough weekend so far, but it's all going your way. Points leader, you're looking like you've got everything in the bag, ready for a good day tomorrow. How is it feeling out there? The wind is howling today. It must feel pretty tense out there.
Yeah, you feel a lot, obviously, in this main straight, as you can see with the races. Like, there's a lot of slipstream, so it's not ideal to be in first. But then as well, when you're up behind, you get a bit slower in the middle sector.
Yeah. Well, it's all going your way. Best of luck for the rest of the day, and we'll see you out there tomorrow as well.
Nice one. Cheers.
Excellent. Well, brilliant stuff from Joe Turney. Plenty more racing to go. Andrew Juniors, they're coming up next.
They are indeed, and it'll be groups D and E out on circuit shortly. It's very, very open this weekend in the OK Junior category. If you have missed any of the action, don't worry, you can watch it back at your leisure from all of the heats today on the platform of choice. 8 laps for this one once again, and 29 drivers will be competing. There's Ross Upton at the front, showing the drivers and the mechanics the 1-minute board, indicating that we're not too far away from getting things going for this next one. We are now getting towards, yes, we are now into round 5. We're into round 5. This is the final heat for many of these drivers there on the front row of the grid. No, your eyes do not deceive you. Lucas Sell has switched sides, so it's another one of these moves, like we've just seen with the seniors. Sell will start on pole position, but on driver's left. Will Green will start P2, switch on to driver's right, row 2 backwards. It's the normal order of anyone on the odd side of the grid starts on the inside for the first turn of turn 1 through that right-hander. But we have seen drivers be able to use that outside line, a little bit more grip out there as well, of course, after nearly 2 full days of racing and qualifying and various sessions running around the circuit. Conditions still very good here in Portimao. Clear skies for everybody out there. It's looking good for another clean race here. The order of things with the intermediate classification that we'll just bring to you at the end of round 4. Kalesia leads on 171, Baglin 163, Babicek 158, Tal 157, Domain 154, Warner 151, Sulfikari and Phillips both on 147. That is one close battle, especially for those looking to be on the front row of the Superheats. Remember, if you finish first in the intermediate classification, you get pole for Superheat A. Second goes to pole, Superheat B. Third, second on the grid for Superheat A. Fourth on the front row, second for Superheat B. Let's take you through the grid for this one then. And despite the look on the picture, Lucas Sell will be on pole position, but on driver's left, has switched with Will Green there. Manuel Miguez and Iskender Sulfikari start on row number 2. Mark Pilipenko and Luke Tal go from row number 3. It's then Jean-Mathieu Rousseau and Jesse Phillips going from row number 4. Mats Van Rooyen and Samuel Hugon, they go from row number 5. Julian Frasnelli and Valerio Villapiana will be on the 6th row of the grid. Getting to the middle of the pack then, row number 7, Casper Reipold and Mani Nuvolidi. On row 8, big race this for Sebastian Eskandari. He's alongside Ludovico Mazzola.
From the 9th row downwards, it's Alex Malota and Enia Bazzuto on row 9. They've both gone for brand new tyres on the left-hand side. You've got Nicholas Guth and Ilya Bezerikin on row 11. They will have Martin Bertolacini and Priyan Bruneau on row 12. Wenyabu and Tony Cachaferro go from row number 13. They'll have Daniel Oliver and Mohamed El Bouzaki, who had a great race earlier on, now has deployed fresh tyres. So really curious to see how he'll get on. And with Victoria Fafa starting 29th, did deploy those tyres earlier on, will have a little bit of work to do from the back of the field. Drivers getting themselves formed up ready. Can confirm it's still very windy out there, Andrew. It's what I would like to call a bad hair day.
For everybody, especially those who don't have much hair. I'm speaking of me, of course. 88 entries in this one. We're going to sadly be saying goodbye to 16 of them after this round of heats. This is where that top 72 cutoff comes in. There's no consolation race. There's no repechage. Got to be in that top 72 after these 5 rounds of heats just to be on the grid for the Super Heats tomorrow morning. Into the tram lines, over to race director Martin Bean. Do we go green? Yes, we are away and racing. Good start for Sell. Decent start for Green, but he's going to be shuffled down to around 6th place by the time we get down to turn 2. Good start for Sulfikari as well there in the first of the Forzas in kart number 69. Solid start, peering out the window. I'm not seeing dust being kicked up in the air, Anthony. I spoke too soon. Out of turn 4. Looks like there's been a bit of an incident.
Yeah, indeed. Raipod may have been one of them, but Alex Malota definitely is one. And Daniel Oliver again getting caught out in an incident. There they are on your screen. That is right before sector 1. And it's good. It's downhill from there. Oh, I think that's attempt 1 there for you, Oliver. And I think, yeah, you're going to have to give that one up. And the marshal is right there. If he gets it started, that might be a dodgy one. No, he hasn't. That's a big shame for you, Daniel Oliver, but it is what it is, unfortunately. And for him, that's not the start of the season he will have wanted with a brand new team, of course.
No, but a good amount of experience this weekend for Daniel Oliver, stepping up through the ranks. Sell leads, but for how long? Because here comes Sulfikari down the inside. Lovely move. Forza Racing once again take the lead.
Yes, indeed. And they've been looking strong all weekend and season so far as, well, here's Phillips back on the attempt. He took a win earlier on. We thought that was going to be the start of a train of him. And then his race after that win, not the result he would have wanted. Held in the pack, but now he's fighting for third, albeit he's just lost out on that as back through goes Luke Tal. And Tal back into P3. Phillips back down to P4 now and into the clutches of that group behind. Hugon, Green, Villapiana, Mazzola, Miguez, Nuvolini. Priam Bruno, 13 places gained at the start of this one. That may have something to do with the brand new set of tyres that are on board his kart, which actually are not on board his kart. So he's actually just had a really good start.
Yeah, it's been more like it from Priam Bruno, another driver we've seen race many times before. As under investigation is the 109 of Daniel Oliver for multiple attempts to restart. That'll be fairly inconsequential because we've seen that Oliver is now, of course, out of this race. But yeah, probably did have a little second go before being stopped by the marshals there saying, nope, that's not within the rules. Please move over to the side of the road. New fastest lap of the race for Ward Racing, 58.510 for the number 19, piloted by China's Yubo Wen. Meanwhile, back at the front of the order, Solficari and Shell going wheel to wheel, 10th and a half between them, if that. They are breaking away from Jesse Phillips, who's now asserted himself in that third place as the leader of the train, trying to bring these two leaders back into the pack. We go into that middle phase of the race. Solficari and Shell got to keep this pace up. At the moment, they're in the 58.5s and 58.4s.
Certainly so, pushing through pretty nicely in this order as they make their way down the hill. Still a nice little scrap between these two here. Lucas L right on that rear bumper of Iskender. Solficari is not letting break away. If anything, it looks like he wants to go for the move sooner rather than later. But things against it as Phillips now sets that fastest lap of the race there in P4. Still pushing on, but is still in that close battle with the rest of the pack. One driver who I want to keep an eye on in this one, very specifically, is Valerio Villapiana, the Italian for Koski Motorsport, who's running currently in 7th place, has got new tyres on board, but is the first driver who I've seen so far this weekend to put them on the right-hand side of his kart. Everyone else has gone left. There was one instance with Maria Neto who went for an opposite one, went front right, rear left, but that's the first full right-hand side tyre swap that we have seen, and so far with the 5 places gained it seems to be working for him.
It might just be down to a bit of driver preference. Yes, the left hand side tyres get loaded a bit more, but if a driver's been able to rotate the tyres round from side to side, you know, one race run your tyres on your left hand side and then switch them to the right hand side for the second race, that, you know, you put the tyres on the right-hand side of the kart, particularly for some of those intricate bits in the middle of the circuit, at the end of sector number 2, the start of sector number 3. Just being able to bite in and turn in and lean in on that front right tyre particularly might be to Villapiana's preference. Good pace still at the front of the order, 58.1s last time around. I think Jesse Phillips might be a bit frustrated here. He does have, or did have, the fastest lap of the race, but he's lost third now to Samuel Hugon, who is acting as a bit of a bottle stopper at the moment in this chase of the top 2. End of lap number 5. Solficari and Shell at the front of the order. They've got a second in hand over the chasing pack.
They do indeed, and this is exactly what they want at this stage of the weekend. You know, not having those fun little battles that you always see as Phillips goes through, and if my ears deceive me, that may have been an exhaust that has come off someone's kart out there, which means we'll see probably a technical flag come out at some point. As Phillips, well, that battle's not over just yet, as Hugon tries to absolutely send it down the inside in towards 8 and 9, thinks against it in that last stage. Now, if they can see that battle happening behind them, they may start to think, okay, let's maybe start to go for these battles now. Let's maybe start to go for these moves. But it looks like Shell's backed off from Solficari now. He's not wanting to go for that fight as, oh dear, a very interesting noise of a kart there going past.
That sounded more like one of the TCRs that's racing on the big circuit here this weekend. But yes, back in the front of the field, Solficari and Shell 1 and 2 as Will Green goes down the inside. Lovely move there by the Williams Junior. Green up to P4.
Yes, indeed, pushing through nicely here, and on that recovery drive, I mean, Green yesterday looked like he was going to be the favourite in the juniors here this weekend, and then just at the start of the day, he dropped down to 8th in that first race earlier on, and then it's all going to just a bit fallen into place a little bit, but he's still really high up in those points. He still sits currently now with this position, P6 in the intermediate classification, means he'll still be in a very strong position. Zulfikari, however, so far this weekend, despite the fact that he had that DNF, is finding himself in the lead of the intermediate classification with 197 points.
Got a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
A lot of confidence this weekend as Iskender Zulfikari. There's still more races to come, of course. In this one. And William Khalija is still very much in striking distance of that score of 197 points. A little bit of a report on our inline 4 sounding kart. That I think it might have been Alex Malota, because Alex Malota is at least off the back of the pack. 27 seconds down on the rest of the field. New fastest lap of the race is a 57.993 from Will Green.
Well, I'm going to kind of eat your words on that one. Alex Malota just crossed the start-finish line. It sounds absolutely fine. I think it might have actually been a bike on the road. Oh, my goodness me. That might be the kart that's got the exhaust problem then, because that was an almighty moment there off the track. And I think that might have been Julian Fresnelli who's gone off the circuit. And that was literally just in towards turn 2 on that last lap. So brilliant well, to see that he's okay, but that is a frightening part, especially at the fastest part of the circuit then. Out of the final corner then, checker flag is out, and that will go the way of Iskender Zulfikari. He leads the intermediate classification at the end of that qualifying heat, but as we say, more races to go for the juniors. It's not over just yet, and for the likes of this one, for groups D and E, that is the last time we see them out on track. That is all Iskender Zulfikari can do today, and is that going to be enough? It might just be. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Zulfikari takes the win then ahead of Lucas Sells. Phillips from Green, Hugon from Mazzola round out the top 6. Ludovico Mazzola, great race there. 10 places gained to finish in P6. So Valerio Virpiana held on to P7 with those 5 places gained ahead of Manuel Miguez, Luke Tal and Manny Nuvolini, who rounded out the top 10. Mark Pilapenko from Asher Ostin, Bezrikin finishing in 13th place from Matsuan Ruin. Brian Bruno from Enia Pizzuto finishing in P16. Gianmatteo Rousseau from Sebastian Eskandari. Nicholas Guth from Casper Reipold. Martin Bertolacini from Victoria Farfus, Wenyabu and Lillian Scarborough. Mohamed El Bazaki, despite the fact that he had a really strong race earlier on used tyres, with those fresh set, only gained 3 places in that race. Tony Casciafero and Alex Malota, they were your last of the race finishers in that one, and the 2 retirements, Julian Fresnelli and Daniel Oliver, at the end of that race, not seeing the checkered flag. There on your screen, though, Iskender Zulfikari, the driver of the number 69 Forza machine, bringing it onto the weighbridge, very slow and tentatively there before he sees how much he's weighed. It's a bit of a deflated look for him. Now, is that a deflated look because there may be a nose cone on board, or is he all good for this one? I don't think he should have, because, well, he did start on the second row of the grid, but does look a little bit deflated there. But on track, at least, Zulfikari takes the win until we get some confirmation there of that. But Lucas Sells finishing in a very close second ahead of Jesse Phillips. Another strong result for him down there with a P3. A win earlier on puts him in a really good position. Let's have a look at the highlights from that race. And you can see here right on the outside, Lucas Sells from the word go. Brilliant getaway off the line, bringing the likes of Zulfikari, Tal and Phillips for company. Will Green, Miguez and Pilapenko all kind of getting a little caught out at the start of that one. Daniel Oliver, right at the beginning of the race, would be the only retirement from the start. He did have a moment with another, but he would be the only retirement from that initial incident. Race continuing throughout. Phillips making the moves in the early stages, as well as Zulfikari had claimed the lead quite early on in the race in this one. More battles happening thick and fast. Ludovico Mazzola as well, fighting through the field. We were talking about him, the Italian on the Birolart machine. 10 places gained in that race, his last-ditch attempt to really push his way through the order, as so many of those drivers in that race did deploy a brand new set of tyres on the left-hand side. That was the moment there for Julian Frasnelli, right on the dying stages of the race, out of it at turn number 2. But Iskender Solfikari, with that win on track, puts him in the lead of the intermediate classifications with 197 points. Let's head down to Parc Ferme. Andrew Mather, over to you.
Thank you very much, Anthony Jordan here with Iskender Solfikari. Iskender, the key results for the team keep coming in. Another Forza Racing win. You take the lead in the intermediate classification. A good day's work.
Well, got the pace, just stay calm and win it.
Going on to the Super Heats tomorrow, not quite sure exactly where you'll be starting. We know it'll be at the very front. How do you rate your chances here this weekend?
I mean, just all the weekend was all fine, qualifying all right. Just one heat, had a DNF with a bad accident, but it's all right. Just confident.
How's the kart feeling at the moment? Clearly it's quick. Are there any further improvements that you'll be looking with the team later on this evening?
Honestly, with the engineers and with the team, we're at our maximum.
Good stuff. Iskender, great result here today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
Very good stuff there from Iskender Solfikari, continuing the very strong form for Forza Racing in the OK Junior category. For now though, Anthony, let's head back to the seniors.
Thank you very much, Andrew Mather, indeed, down there in Parc Ferme. Great stuff chatting to Iskender Solfikari there. Indeed, seniors are coming up next, but that will be in a few moments' time. We are going to take a short ad break. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Champions of the Future Round 2, live here from the Portimao circuit in Portugal. If you are only just joining us, you're just in time to see the dying stages of those qualifying heats. We've just witnessed the last time we see Groups D and E out for the juniors. It's now time for Groups D and E for the seniors. They're heading out next, and my goodness, has everyone deployed fresh set of tyres out there? Apart from this man here, Daniel Keller, has not deployed a fresh set of tyres. He may be thinking, oh no, everyone else has got fresh tyres. They might be all over my case in this one. It's easier to tell you who hasn't deployed them in this one. It's a grand total of 4 of them. Daniel Keller, one of them, Maria Neto, the other, Efren Durinov, and Sonia B. They've either already deployed their tyres in previous races or have not deployed them at all. Everyone else on that grid has got a brand new set of tyres on the left-hand side. Basically, like I was just mentioning, if you're Daniel Keller, I'd probably be a wee bit nervous.
a wee bit nervous, but to put the positive spin on things, if Keller can keep himself high up the order in this race, he gets his set tomorrow in the superheats. So it's a risky one when you can see everybody else going for those new sets, but also the way that Daniel Keller has been driving so far this week, I'd back him here to maybe not get a race win, but possibly a top 5. That would be a solid result.
To just prove how professional we are, you know that exhaust we were hearing earlier on, it's 100% motorbikes going up the hill and not a kart that's lost an exhaust. So that just shows that, well, you know, kart engines sound similar to motorbike engines in some ways, shape or form.
That's why we have to have the silencer on, because the bike's too loud.
I am still an advocate of ripping all these exhausts off these karts and just letting them go for a race. And just without noise the TCR cars and GT cars over the way. Right, anyway, engines fire up, drivers make their way out onto the circuit. This will be the last time we see Groups D and E out on the circuit in a senior capacity. This will be their last chance to score intermediate classification points to get them through into those superheats. And, of course, those finals later on tomorrow on Saturday. Let's take you through that full starting lineup, though. Daniel Keller, no fresh tyres on board. However, Chiara Batig and everyone else around him has. It is Chiara Batig starting alongside. Marcus Schilkunis and Dean Pedersen go from row number 2. Thomas Bradier and Thibaut Ramekers go from row 3. Victor Gustafsson and Yidra Peschel go from row 4. They'll have Clovis Nugarade and Jensen Burnett on row 5. Maria Neto has not deployed new tyres because she deployed them earlier on today. He'll have Olo Kinmark alongside with that fresh set. Clementson and Leo Nilsson, they round out the first half of the grid on row number 7.
Row number 8 is Bo Loet and Zach Drummond. Row 9 will just be Lev Krutelov. Scott Marsh sits this one out. Row 10, Antonio Macedo and Roland Keklein. Row 11, Sebastian Kopeng and Efim Durinov. Row 12, Francois Cadal and Peter Stiller. Row 13, Sebastian Mins and Zach Delay. Row 14, Carl Lutard and Senna Mounier. The 15th row of the grid is completed by Radek Vavra and Sun Yibei. This will be a feisty race. That's not a could be. It will be a feisty race with all of these new tyres out there and all of these drivers knowing that whether they are in the top 36, trying to hold themselves in there, in the top 72, looking to move forward and give themselves a good shot of making the final through those superheats, or just trying to simply make it through to those superheats. You cannot leave anything in the awning after this race. You've got to go and give it your all. This is the final heat for Groups D and E in the senior category in the OK class here for Champions of the Future Round 2. I'm excited for this one, Anthony Jordan.
Yes, indeed. I know you were saying earlier on that you said we were going to have a scrap. I believe this one could be the scrap with all those new tyres put on board. I am surprised how so many have done that today in this last race. Yes, OK, there are a few here that have had really good results and are definitely making it through no matter what happens in this. But it still begs belief as to why they've deployed those tyres today and not saved them for tomorrow for maybe even the superheat. So, well, let's see what happens then. Into the tram lines. Lights are out quickly. We are racing. It's a lightning start for both sides of the grid, but it will be the inside line of Daniel Keller, who has got the momentum in towards turn number 1 to maintain that lead of the race. Chiara Batig, starting on the front row of the grid, is going to hold on to potentially third place here. She does, as Victor Gustafsson has had a really good start there and is into around P4, P5 now, but has just lost out to Thomas Bradier, who has sent it down the inside. Bit of smoke getting kicked up in the background. There are karts who have not come through the first sector unscathed. Unfortunately for Efim Durinov, Francois Cadal, Sebastian Mins and Carl Lutard, their races are over. They are going to try and get restarted. 2 of them do get restarted, but that's too little too late. And for some of those, that might be their weekend over here.
Absolutely. Well, this is the best chance that Daniel Kelleher has to keep himself high up the order. If his pace is good in the early laps, he's lost the race lead, though. Marcus Schilkunas has got through and to the front of the field. End of lap number 1 as they're out of the race. Is Efim Durinov in the 291. So it's Schilkunas leading, Kelleher P2, Chiara Batig still there in third ahead of Thomas Pradier. Victor Gustafsson, after a good round 4, is looking to strengthen things there in 5th place. This is how Schilkunas did it. The classic move down the inside into the technical section of 12 and 13. Marcus Shilkunas continuing to grow with confidence. With a very good team, of course. VDK Racing had a tremendous 2024. The likes of Thibaut Ramakas still in this paddock. Finn McLaughlin last year as well had a tremendous year in the senior category. He's, of course, moved on to single-seaters now for this season. He's racing this weekend. There is your situation in the intermediate classification points. Kelleher still at the front of things, but Turney not too far behind, waiting on the sidelines.
No, indeed. He will keep a close eye on what is happening here. Tom Pradier didn't have a good one on that last one. He lost out in 4 places there. Pedersen, Newgrade, Ramakas and Peschel all getting through as once more they go side by side down in towards turn number 2 and 3 for the third time of asking. Chiara Batik now setting the fastest lap of the race here. Shilkunas, I don't think is going to be fully comfortable there, Andrew. Both of them are on the fresh tyres, but they are still going to have a bit of work to do here. Keller is still impressing me here. He's right behind Gustafsson on those used tyres. He's still in a really strong position here in P4.
Yeah, and that time from Batik shows kind of the delta here with the new tyres that were already into the 56.4s and still with quite a few laps of this one to go. As a reference, the fastest lap times in the previous race were setting in 56.3s. That was more second half of the field runners with their new tyres. The front runners were running in the 56.4s, the 56.5s. And that, of course, was across the course of 10 laps. That was Pedersen down the inside of Kelleher. This is where this race really starts to get tough now for Danny Kelleher, because everybody will know that he's on older tyres, that he's going to be vulnerable, that he's not going to be able to stop as quickly in the braking zones. He's not going to be able to get the power on as early out of the traction zones. He's not going to be able to carry as much speed. Still a lot of speed, but not as much as those on the fresher rubber. Kelleher's just got to keep it in there and in some ways not fight, not let it get too close. It's close for the race lead, and there's a change for the race lead. Chiara Batik past Marcus Shilkunas. Lovely move there through turn 13.
Yeah, indeed. Again, well calculated, and she's really grown this so far in 2025, has Chiara Batik. Really come out of her shell on the racing track and not afraid to go for those moves now at this top level of karting and senior racing. Of course, these are the pinnacle of direct drive races from around the world, 200 of them from all over the globe coming together, and Chiara Batik at this moment doing a brilliant job at the front of it and still sitting 5th in those intermediate classifications. Of course, with the races that we've got coming up, that is subject to change. However, I still think at the end of this the weekend so far has done a brilliant job.
A brilliant job, and is on for at least a third row of the grid start once everybody's done their final ones. I mean, if there's a bit of chaos in the second and third races in this round, then it's possible, yeah, that Chiara Batik could hold on to that 5th place in the IC, which should convert to an inside row 2 start. Plenty going on here. Thibaut Ramakas coming through as Yuri Peschel. You are one lucky boy there, round the outside, nearly went for a bit of a joker lap through the dirt, held on to it, does drop it down to 9th place, but my oh my, turn 16 is Kelleher in all of this, is just there behind Clementson in 7th on the road. This would still do for Danny Kelleher. I think in the moment he's just going to try and put Turney under pressure.
I want to watch this again. Look at this, right on the outside. I tell you what, he kept it pinned. Fair play, lad, but my goodness me, he didn't half kick up a big stone there that was just lodged in the side. Look at that, he was very lucky. That tyre didn't come off there because that's a really harsh exit curve that he's just grounded on.
And the second kicker as well, as he was coming back onto the track, the bottom of the cart hit the ground again. Back at the front of the order, Batik is pulling away from Shilkunas here. The gap is 0.4 of a second. Dean Pedersen there in 3rd, looking pretty quick. Thibaut Ramakas now the fastest driver out on circuit. We're down in race pace on these newer tyres down into the 55s, the 55.9 for the Belgian.
Yeah, indeed. This is where it gets to that stage of the weekend where we go back to nearly what we were doing in qualifying pace, because you see those top drivers who were quickest in qualifying redeploy those fresh sets, and you see a relatively quick pace. Ramakas here, though, all over the back of that bumper of Dean Pedersen as they make their way down the hill in towards 13 and 14 here on lap 7. And I've got to say, Ramakas, we have spoken about him many a time so far this weekend. but he has just been in that background a little bit, hasn't he? His results haven't been as strong as what they were in previous years, but he is still delivering in the senior category, isn't he?
And you never rule him out.
No,
you
never.
You never rule Thibaut Ramekes out in one race to just be able to turn things on. Entered the weekend 11th in the championship points with a 19 score across the 3 stages at Campillos. At the moment, he's 6th in the intermediate classification, getting ahead of Costoy. Costoy also not in this race, of course, so Costoy could take that position back. But Thibaut Ramekes maybe looking a bit longer into the weekend, longer through these 2 weeks here, of course, at Portimao, trying to put Dean Pedersen under a bit of pressure. It's, of course, for 3rd place. Still at the front of the order, Batik holding that 4/10 gap back to Shilkunas.
There's been some problems out there for a couple of other drivers. Efim Duranov and Karl Luthard are having moments out there, but Karl Luthard's still in the race, albeit he's dropped back quite considerably, back to 27th place. Eyes on this fight, still no change between the two of them, as the train behind looks to be a little bit interesting here. Gustafsson, who was fighting a little higher up in the order earlier on in the race, as I will eat my words because it is kicking off now between these two. Ramekes down the inside at turn number 5, gets it through. Clean overtake there, not too dramatic. It is before a long uphill fast section here, but he's made it work. And he does not go in the defensive, and well, I think that's a little too late to try and close in on the race leaders. There has definitely been a moment there between Karl Luthard and Sebastian Mins, I think, because they're both off the circuit at turn number 5, and just as I would say, they hadn't got a moment, they just did. So there we go. It shows that it's been a bit of a tricky one. I think Maria Neto and Sebastian Korpeng were also involved in a similar incident as well at turn 5. Going on to this last lap of the race then, Andrew, and Chiara Batig, in her final race of the day, is looking very comfortable going for tomorrow.
Very, very comfortable indeed, and is going to be at the sharp end of things for the superheats tomorrow. Yellow flags are out for the recovery of Maria Neto and Sebastian Korpeng's machines. There is the live table, well, Joe Turney may not even need to do anything at all once we get to the final set of heats. Kelleher's dropped down in this race. The run on the older tyres has not worked for him at all. In fact, he's off. He's out of this race. That's why Kelleher's all of a sudden dropped down to 25th place on the road, 4th place in the points. Open door now for Turney, and a great win for Chiara Batig. Takes race victory. Another one on the board for the Swiss driver. She has been fantastic this weekend. Takes it by 1/4 a second ahead of Markus Shilkunas, who right now has hold of pole position for Superheat B. Now, yes, there are still drivers to come who could knock him off of that pedestal, but Markus Shilkunas has done a very good job across those 5 rounds of heats. Thibaut Ramekes 3rd, Dean Pedersen 4th, Vegard Clementson up 8 spots to 5th. Good drive there from Clementson, considering how so many people were using new tyres. We're effectively neutralising each other's pace on those new tyres. For Clementson to make up 8 spots in all of that is very good indeed. Victor Gustafsson was P6 ahead of French champion Clovis Nougred in P7. Thomas Pradier in 8th place ahead of Leo Nielsen. Jensen Burnett completes the top 10. Peschel, Loet, Krutelov, Drummond, Keklein take us down to 15th place. Oliver Kinmark was P16 ahead of Peter Stiller and Radek Vavra. Antonio Macedo and Senna Munier in the top 20. Sunye Bay P21 ahead of Zach Delay, Sebastian Mins, Karl Luthard, Daniel Kelleher, Maria Neto and Sebastian Korpeng. The last 3 of those drivers retirements from that one. Also retiring, Efim Duranov, Francois Cadal, both on the first lap. Scott Marsh did not start. There is your race winner, Chiara Batig. Bookends these qualifying heats with 50-point scores. At the moment, Batig 6th in the intermediate points. Turney still has the lead, in fact, despite all of those drivers having raced one more time. Shilkunas P2, Martinez P3, Kelleher 4th, Ramicus 5th, Fatigue, Pradir and Kostoya. But remember, there are still races to go, of course. Here is a replay of the race start. Daniel Kelleher with pretty much the whole field behind him on fresher Maxxis rubber. This was the run into turn number 2. Many drivers trying to make up positions in the early stages, of course. Shulkunas had a good start, holding their second on the road. Fatigue in third into turn 5. All good through the first part of the field. Bit of shoulder-to-shoulder rubbing there as out would go Francois Cadal and Efim Durinov from contention. There would be trouble there as well for Carl Lutard. Move for the lead. Shulkunas through and past Kelleher. Kelleher started to fade pretty quickly with those older tyres. Fatigue then on the attack. We saw her perform very well on fresher rubber in the first round of heats yesterday. Again, with those fresher tyres, she was able to pull her way through. Pretty consistently lead by about 4/10 throughout the course of this race. Really close moment for Yuri Peschel. Out in the dirt, a kick off the sand as well. Was nearly sending himself onto the beach and to the Algarve on that one, but was able to get back on circuit and recover to 11th place. Thibaut Ramicus in good form would come through. Out would go Maria Neto and Sebastian Coppeng in a moment with a few laps to go. But no one was stopping Chiara Fatigue in this particular heat. She finishes with a score of 172 from a possible 250. Let's head down to Anthony Jordan.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Down here with our race winner from that qualifying heat, Chiara Fatigue. Great to chat to you because you've had a pretty decent weekend on this one. A couple of tricky races, of course, with a DNF and a penalty in one, but qualifying was fantastic, and you're still very high up in the points. How are you feeling going into tomorrow now, because your racing's all done today?
Of course, we're feeling pretty decent as we had a 15 and a DNF. Yeah, the speed has been really good. And yeah, we managed to put good races together and some that were not really good.
Yeah. How is everything feeling out there? It's pretty windy today. I was speaking to Joe earlier. He was saying it affects the car quite a lot. What do you say to that? Are you feeling it quite tricky with the wind?
Of course, it affects the engine a lot, as you need to go with different sprocket. And yeah, the slipstream is quite bigger than yesterday.
Excellent. But still, some good results today. Are you ready for tomorrow? Because it's going to be a busy one as well.
Of course, we're ready. We have really good speed, and we see now how we are standing in the intermediate classification.
Excellent. Well, congratulations. Well done, Chiara. We'll speak to you a little bit later on. Let's bring in Marcus Shulkunas very quickly. Marcus, currently second in the intermediate classification now after your results. You're having a brilliant weekend, I would say, so far. How are you feeling, and how do you think it's going?
Of course, we're having a good weekend. In Campillos was not so great, and we came here and I showed that I have the pace and just driving and trying to make everything perfect.
What's been the main differences from Campillos to here in Portimao? Because obviously it feels like a night and day difference for you out here.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know, maybe I like the track more here, and also Campillos is good track, but we were not fast there.
Yeah. It's a quick track here, isn't it, at Portimao? Obviously, weather's not been on our side with the wind today, but the sun's been shining. What are your plans for the rest of today? You've obviously you've not got any more points you can collect. You're still P2. Are you going to be watching the rest of the racing and see how it goes, or are you just going to relax now and chill somewhere else?
Definitely, I will try to watch the race and improve. So I hope it will be a good day today and tomorrow.
Well, excellent. Congratulations. Well done. We'll see where you are at the end of the day, but best of luck, and we'll see you out there tomorrow.
Thank you.
Excellent stuff. Well, there you have it for those groups for the seniors. More races coming up because we're back over to the juniors for their last qualifying heat of the day as well.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Indeed, Groups A and F getting ready for their final run of the day. Another 29 drivers with their targets firmly in their minds of what they're trying to achieve across the course of the next 8 laps. The 12 kilometres here at Portimao. Thank you once again for being with us. Hope you're enjoying your day. Of course, we're back tomorrow for those super heats and finals. You can watch every moment on the platform of your choice. And as we get ready for this next one, OK Junior can be summarised, I think, basically as it's been so open across all of these races, there is no dominant force, it would seem, in an individual sense for this category this weekend. However, those Forza Racing prepared machines, you can see two of them there at the very front of the grid. Henry Domain on the left-hand side of your screen, Andrea Mani on the right-hand side of your screen. They have been a real force to be reckoned with so far in this category. They had a very good 2024 with the likes of Dries van Langendonk and others, but yeah, they really have stepped it up for this meeting here in Portugal. All of the drivers there poised and ready for, as I say, another 8 laps to bring them to the end of this first stage. A bit of a note on what we're seeing on tyres. Quite a few new tyres, but not as many perhaps as what we've just seen in the seniors. Let's take you through the grid as the formation laps get underway for this qualifying heats for groups A and F in OK Junior. It'll be Henry Domain on pole position. It's a Forza Racing lockout on the front row with Andrea Mani on the outside. Eli Christian, championship leader, heading into this weekend. Starts this one from the inside of row number 2. Is alongside Oliver Warner. Turner Brown and Henry Constant Compen start on row number 3. Row 4, Devin Waltz and Mika Runitz. Row 5, Roland Nagy and Maxim Bobrashov, as there's problems there for the 102 of Felipe Sanchez. Row number 6, Evan Purcell and Seva Osatchi Soslovsky in the number 71. Gustavo Marquez de Silva and Angelina Simmons start on row number 7. On row number 8, it's Marcel Shabo and Vanessa Schilkinator.
Row number 9 sees Alfonso Lopez with Emiliano Hernandez on row 9. Amir Sabarov and Lucas Bonholm, they round out the top 20 and they go from row number 10. Samuel Dukowski and Nikita Lubimov go from row 11. They'll have Felipe Sanchez and Bosco Arias on row 12. Nilas Malik and Benjamin Maniac round out row 13 with Emilia Vishamirska and Jug Rana on row 14. Gregor Callis rounds out the field of 29 drivers on row number 15. Tyres, Andrew.
Yes.
There are many of them, as we expect.
They're black, they're round, and some of them are new out there as well. Mikkel Grunitz, Evan Purcell, Seva Osatchi Soslovsky, Gustavo Marquez de Silva, Vanessa Schilkinator, Lucas Bonham, Xavier Dudkowski, Felipe Sanchez, Bosco Arias, Benjamin Maniac, and Emilia Vishmerska are all running new tyres on the left-hand side of their kart. One driver breaking the mould, Nikita Lyubimov from row 11, has got new tyres but has put them on the right-hand side. There, once again, is Felipe Sanchez in the 102 Energy course. Well, has got some of those new tyres on the kart, but is having some trouble clearly getting out into circuit and getting the engine running. So that's a bit of a panicked moment. Fraught activity down there at the bottom of the pre-grid. No trouble, though, for Henry Domain at the front of the field. Doesn't have the same problem that Danny Kelleher just had in the previous race for the seniors. Quite a few of those at the front. In fact, only one driver in the top 10 is running a set of new tyres, that, of course, being the aforementioned Mika Runitz. So it should be a pretty even race at the front, Anthony.
Yeah, it certainly should do. And let's see what will happen then at the start of this one. Of course, Felipe Sanchez not there as he's had struggles starting that kart. So let's see what happens in this race. Are we going racing? Yes, we are. And it's a good start for the inside row. Will be one of the forces in the background there going nearly all on the grass at the start of that race. But at the front of the field, it's all good. Bit of a lock-up in the background there. One of the karts going sideways into the braking zone of turn 2 and 3. They do trip over each other slightly, but all karts still in the race as they continue their adventure out of the hairpin at turn number 5. But it's still a clean lead for Domain at the front of the field.
May have been Roland Nagy, the number 43 Forza Racing machine that was in a bit of bother both down the pit straight and also through the turn 3, turn 4 complex. But the Hungarian driver still running well in there. 8 laps, of course, for these drivers. Where has Andrea Mani dropped down to? I think he's dropped down to around 7th place off of the start here. It's no longer a Forza Racing 1-2. Felipe Sanchez showing us in the pits. I do not think that 102 kart for the Brazilian driver has been able to join the race. That's a shame.
No, that is a big shame indeed. Well, we'll have to wait and see if there is an update from that later on. But yeah, not a good one, especially, like you said, Andrew, with that brand new set of tyres on, and he's not going to get to use them. If it does mean he gets through to tomorrow still, he'll get to use them tomorrow.
Yeah.
Is that the case?
It's dodgy. Dodgy ground. 81st place is what I had Sanchez down as at the end of round number 3. So, yeah, and I don't remember Sanchez flying through the field in round number 4, so that may be all she wrote for Felipe Sanchez this weekend.
That is a big, big shame. Well, racing does continue. There is a look at your top 6 in the intermediate classification. Domain leading that one now with 204 points to the name, ahead of Zulfikari and Sel. So Zulfikari still in a really good spot there in second. We caught up with him earlier on. But depending on how the races later on go, he is still in a prime position there to potentially start in a pole position in one of those superheats.
Technical flag is out for the number 22 of Turner Brown. That's the kart in 3rd place. We'll try and take a close look as to what that may be, going around all the usual contenders of loose bumpers. Well, it's not that time. Is it a chain guard, I wonder? Yes, I think it may well be. A chain guard on the number 22 is not present. Either way, it's going to be end of the race for a competitive sense for Turner Brown. That's a real shame. Turner's been quick today. The American for Ricky Flynn Motorsports, the latest American in their awning. They've got a good record of folks from North America racing with them in this junior category over the years. Turner Brown will be in those superheats tomorrow, but maybe not quite as far forward as he would have hoped.
No, that is a big shame, and he peels straight off with quite some pace into Parc Ferme. And yes, indeed, his racing over. Here we go then, Christen to the lead. Oh, there, Domain went for the move there to go on the inside, and then he just realised, oh, there's a full Tony cut there. I can't really turn in right now, and nearly ended in a bit of a booting off the circuit, but has got himself squared away nicely and is holding on to 2nd place as he tucks in now behind the current championship leader. Whether or not he will remain that at the end of the qualifying heats phase is another question, because remember, only 1 point separates the top 3. And they're all kind of at that sharp end, aren't they?
Particularly William Kalesia as well. William Kalesia still, I think mathematically, does have a chance of taking pole position in this category. So we're on to lap number 4. Christen leads for Tony Kart Racing Team, but definitely hasn't got this one won. Not with Devin Waltz on the scene, running there in 3rd place. Last time around a 58.4 for Waltz, and also keep an eye on the likes of Warner Company and Maxim Bobrishov. Maxim Bobrishov going pretty quickly, and Bosco Arias. Yes, 2.8 seconds back, but if this quartet start fighting hard over the next few laps, Bosco Arias is absolutely flying out there. He's already gained 17 places in this race. The Spaniard is on good form.
He certainly is, and he's been on good form all weekend, hasn't he? We've already seen him up at the sharp end. He had a few mid-section races as well, but he's really delivered some really strong results as Bosco Arias, and continues to set those fastest laps and pushing his way through nicely in this field. Like you say, qualifying wasn't there for him, but he's certainly delivered in these qualifying heats now with those 17 places gained. Lubomov as well, 11 places gained. Benjamin Magnac is also a driver who we talked about right at the start of the weekend, who had a bad qualifying. He's also shooting his way through the field once again. 10 places gained as well as into P16.
And these are all new tyre runners.
This is
another one of the reasons why, particularly in the juniors, you might play your new tyres in round number 5. Because it's not just about getting some points on the board in the intermediate classification. We'll come back to that because Domain's down the inside of Christen, and Waltz has gone through as well. Christen may try and fight back here to retake 2nd place through the fast left-hander. That was beautifully done by the Canadian, but the race is on at the front of the field here on lap number 6. Oliver Warner is still there as well in 4th place for Ricky Flynn Motorsport. You'd say any one of these 4 could win this one right now. But just go back to those tyre situations. If you get a good return on your new tyres in this race, not only does it give you points in the intermediate classification, it gives you an easier run of things in the superheats in theory as well. You just start that little bit further forward. You can push on through that race. Everyone's a bit tense as well through those superheats, so I can understand why those tyres are being played at this moment. 2 laps to go, Anthony. Domain looking good at the front, but he's got some challenges.
He certainly does, and those challenges involve quite a sizable train of karts right on his rear bumper in the form of Christian Waltz, Warner, Kumpin and Bob Brajov, as Arias again continues to set the fastest lap of the race. And he is closing in on that fight. Just 17 places gained, and he's closing in on the lead battle in this race. That is an astonishing drive from the Spaniard. And with the time that we've got left, which isn't that much if we're truth to be told, you know, anything can happen, and he could certainly get his way through this race. There is confirmation of the biggest mover. Started this race 24th place, and is inside the top 10, chasing down the leaders. Absolutely extraordinary. Out of the last couple of corners then we go, and Henry Domain will be the receiver of the last lap board for the first time, and out of the race, unfortunately, will be the driver of the 63 machine, Birilat Gustavo da Silva, out of it as it's now kicking off. Domain is battling with Christian. Here we go, Andrew. This is kicking off nicely.
That may be an end of a weekend as well for Marquez da Silva. Not the first time that we've seen problems for Gustavo here today. Really heavy defence from Domain on the run down to turn 2 on the last lap. Has that been the key moment that's given him the race victory? And at least for now, the lead in the intermediate classification. Remember, there are still more groups to come. Eli Christian is all over the back of Domain here. Domain has spent so much of this weekend so far at the very front, was the fastest driver in timed qualifying earlier on this weekend. Are we going to see Domain at the front of the order for the super heats tomorrow? Can Christian get through as well? This is crucial for the championship. Out of the final corner, Domain is going to hold on from Christian. Waltz in third. Really entertaining run here in OK Junior.
Certainly so, and Domain holds on to that last race win of the day for him. And he leads the intermediate classification now with 204 points. But there is still junior races to go in the form of groups B and C later on for that last qualifying heat of the day for the juniors. But for Domain, he's done all he can. It's a solid effort to get him up into the lead of the points. We'll have to wait and see if he maintains it. The full results then, at the end of that race, Henry Domain takes the win ahead of Eli Christian, who gained the 1 place to finish in P2. Devin Waltz, 4 places gained, puts him in third ahead of Oliver Warner, and Henry Constant Kumpin in 5th place. Maxim Bobrajov in P6 from Bosco Addis' impressive 17 places gained to finish in P7. Vanessa Shilkaneta in 8th place ahead of Evan Purcell. Angelina Simmons rounds out the top 10 ahead of Nikita Lubimov's 11 places gained to finish in P11. Mika Runitz finishes in 12th place ahead of Sevoloda Sadlovsky, who finishes in P13. Lucas Bonhomme from Benjamin Magnac, Marcel Sebu from Andrea Mani, Nilas Malik from Emiliano Hernandez rounds out the top 19. Roland Nagy finishing in 20th place ahead of Lopez, Sabarov, Kalis, Rana, Dudkowski and Vishamiska, who rounds out the 26 finishers in that race. There is your race winner and now current intermediate classification leader. Even the crowd in the background driving past are fans of that. But as you can imagine, a tense moment for Domain with 1 more junior race to go. Here's how it all unfolded for him. Domain starting it on the inside line. You can see just in the background there, Roland Nagy just getting off the track there and nearly losing out on a fair few positions down in towards turn number 1. Initial starts and getaway for the front runners, absolutely fine. There would be later dramas for Turner Brown, the American who started P5. Unfortunately, technical flag for him, and he would find himself being eliminated from the race. Not sure what it was for in the end, because looking at his kart, it all seemed fine in the early stages. It may have been a dropped rear bumper. That is a common thing that can happen on these karts. But nevertheless, Domain at the front was able to drive away in those early stages. This was Devin Waltz making the moves and pushing his way forward pretty nicely at the start of that race. This was a change for the lead. Christian looking to the inside, getting that move done on Domain Domain later fighting back at turn number 5. That allowed the likes of Devon Waltz to go down the inside as well. Chopping and changing happening here. Christian, though, would fight back, not moments later. Back down the inside into second place as they went up the hill. Gustavo Marquez de Silva, I think that is a weekend done for him, and huge shame, and I think he knows it there. I don't think he would be making it to those superheats tomorrow. That was a brave moment there. Domain, Christian, absolutely wheel to wheel, downing towards turn number 2. Domain holding on to that win then, only just across the line, clear by 0.05 of a second between himself, Christian, and Waltz, finishing 1, 2, 3. Well, that's all they wrote for Groups A and F for the juniors. We'll see the juniors out later on, but let's head down to Parc Ferme. Andrew Mather, over to you.
Thank you, Anthony. Here with Henry Domain again. Henry, every single racing lap you've had so far this week has been fantastic. Another win. You're currently at the top of the intermediate classification as well. Job done.
Yeah, it's good considering we had a DNF. To be at the top of the classifications is good, but obviously there's another heat, so we have to wait and see.
Absolutely, there's still some other drivers who could beat your score. Talk me through that last heat. The battle with Eli Christian looked pretty fierce.
Yeah, it was a very difficult heat, especially the last few laps. It was quite intense.
How do you prepare for a moment like that? Do you look at this circuit with your mechanics and your coaches as to where you can defend, where you can push?
Yeah, obviously my coach, he helps a lot to make sure that I know what to do in those situations, as well as the team helps a lot, so yeah.
How will you get ready for the super heats? Will you relax tonight?
Yeah, have a good night's sleep and go again tomorrow.
Good stuff. Well done, Henry. We'll wait and see what the result of the final heat is and where you will be in the intermediate classification, but best of luck for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Very good stuff from Henry Domain and from Forza Racing. They continue to go from strength to strength in the OK Junior category. But Anthony, it's back to the seniors.
It certainly is their penultimate race of the day. Senior qualifying heat A versus F. That will be coming out next. But we will take a short ad break between now and then. We will see you in a few minutes' time.
It makes life a lot easier out the track, so you don't have to worry about school and on-track performance and grades and all that sort of stuff.
The school understands exactly what I'm doing. They understand, how important it is for me, and the schedule that they, cater for me is really well balanced, and I really enjoy it.
It's a very fine balance between his sporting career and also his studies. He doesn't have to compromise on either. I'm very happy that Minerva has supported us through this journey.
The communication is great, and yeah, I'm enjoying it. I think MVA would help a lot of other races. A lot of people come into the track and asking about it. What do you do for homeschool? Like, how does it work? And I always say, Minerva, you need to contact them and get going with them, because it's made my life so much easier.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Champions of the Future Round 2 here live from Portimao in Portugal. We are going into the last 3 races of the day, and it is the last race of the day for Groups A and F in the senior category. And the last race, we will see the likes of Joe Turney, Kenzo Craigie battling out on track, same as Christian Costoya, Lewis Werrell, Jacob Miklev, Gino Rocchio. This is all their last attempts of getting through to those superheats tomorrow. There is a look at Joe Turney, who has once again chosen to switch sides of the grid. I was meant to ask him why he's been doing that earlier on. I completely forgot. I was too focused about how windy it was, purely because my hair was going everywhere. Right, a look at the grid of this one, and well, for quite a few drivers, it's fresh tyres on board for this. So again, if you're anyone in the drivers of the top 3, you should be concerned. One driver who has gone for a fresh set is Christian Costoya. That second row of the grid. He's got a brand new set of tyres on that other side of the kart, and you can see there Kenzo Craigie, who hasn't gone for a new set. Costoya directly behind him has gone for a new set, so that's going to be a very interesting one. Again, it's one of these situations where it's probably easier to tell you who hasn't put on a fresh set, And there, visually, you can see it on board the 277 machine on the left-hand side of his kart. Brand new Maxxis Prime tyres affixed to it. Are we going to see a Costoya drive to the front here? Andrew, I've got a feeling we might.
Yeah, I tend to agree, but I think it's the same rinse and repeat what a situation that Costoya's been dealing with across every single one of these qualifying heats, that he's not going to get the best of getaways because of this switch for Turney to drivers left, and also not helped by the fact that Craigie hasn't got fresh tyres. So it's going to be a few moments at least before Costoya is able to use that fresh rubber to the maximum potential that the left-hand side can give him. But I think he had to play his tyres in this one, if anything, just to try and recuperate some points back in the intermediate classification and convert them into championship points. We've seen Danny Kelleher have a not-so-good final heat, so there is a potential at least third place in the IC up for grabs in this one. Anthony, let's take us through the grid then.
Indeed, we shall. It will be Joe Turney and Kenzo Craigie on the front row of this one. Both of them not deploying fresh tyres. They're going to save them for tomorrow because they know they've made it through. What will happen in this race as the entirety of the grid behind have all deployed them. Christian Costoya and Lewis Well go from row number 2. Werrell is another one of those drivers who has not deployed a fresh set of tyres, so he is also in the same boat as Turney and Craigie at the start of this race. Everyone else, though, has. Jacob Mikolev and Gino Rocchio, brand new on row 3. Vladimir Ivanikov and Lewis Francis, brand new on row 4. Aston Sharp and Emilio Koivisto, brand new on row number 5. Davide Bataro and Armin Kari Osman, they go from row number 6. Also, brand new tyres are fixed. Row number 7 sees Roman Kamyab. He has not deployed his, or has done already this weekend. He will have Hugo Marti starting alongside on row number 7, who has got a brand new set.
Zach Green and Oscar Gallen go from the 8th row of the grid for this final heat for groups A and F. Cara Furhand and Bernardo Bernaldi start on row 9. Sky Parker needs a big race here to make it through to the super heats. He's on row 10 alongside Paul Andriotis. Makos Savalev and Gabriela Teixeira go from row number 11. Daniel Picconi had a good 4th race, starts on row 12 alongside Eloy Gonzalez. Stylianos Kolovos and Franciszek Strzelski start on row 13. Alois Girardet and Matt Corby start on row 14. It's Romeo Roussel and Daniel Harrotstay due to go from row 15. One final race this weekend for the French driver in the 303 for KBK competition. It's Mathis Omerta completing the field of 31 runners here for the senior category. It's OK qualifying heat A versus F. And for Joe Turney, this should be a bit of a victory lap round to complete things. Just needs to bring this one home. He leads the intermediate classification before we've even got going in this one.
Yes, indeed. So no one else behind him. Well, say Marcus Shulkunis has already raced. He cannot do anything. Jacopo Martinez also, I believe, maybe out later on. It is a false start. They are going around again. I could see that one happening from a mile away. Just not formed up as much as I think they should have been at the beginning of that one, Andrew.
To make the maths nice and easy.
Oh, I like that.
For Turney, it's a simple case of just finish in the top 2. But depending on how this race plays out and this set of heats play out, he may not even need to do that. His closest adversary who's not raced already is Jacopo Martinez, who's 12 points back and starts on row 2 of the final heat. So we'll keep you up to date with all of that one as long as Turney is 50 points ahead of Jacopo Martinez. So that would be 2,232 points in the intermediate classification. It's going to be pole in Superheat A for the reigning European and champion to the future champion.
Yes, indeed. Well, let's see how it will all unfold in this one. I don't want to put it on a driver on this one. I've just got a feeling this one could be Costoya's. Yes, okay, he is on the outside. He's got Joe Turney switch sides, which means he will have Kenzo Craigie in front, which means that inside row won't get the benefit. But He has got those fresh tyres. He knows he was quick earlier on. I feel it could be his race. Let's see what happens, though, as they get racing. And Costoy, once again, has been caught out by that battle going through, but so has Joe Turney. He has been swallowed by the pack, and he's gone down to about P4 now. So, again, it's just showcasing those fresher tyres behind. They could get the power down and they could get the waft out of the corner.
And they can get the power out of the corner. But it's in fact a driver also on used rubber who got the jump on Turney there. Lewis Werrell through into the race lead then in the very early stages of this one. Bit of a surprise. And in and through turns 8 and 9 they go. It is the 298 of Gino Rocchio there in second place. As off goes Werrell. Werrell into the dust. What happened there to Lewis Werrell, who looks to the skies in disgust? A chance of a race victory. That is not the moment that Lewis Werrell, who's not had the best of weekends so far, he's had some very good results, but he did also have a DQ to start his day. Is that going to leave Lewis Werrell with too much work to do in the superheats?
Now, I am not sure if that was mechanical in nature, as we see a change for the lead, or was he assisted there? Because I'm not sure if he had slowed and then he was hit from behind, or was he hit from behind and then he went off. We'd have to see it again. And, of course, race control will be looking into that also. But that is a tense moment there with how violently it went off the circuit. I think that's mechanical in nature more than anything, but that's only an assumption.
Yeah, we'll see if we can have a look at that again. Just another quick update on Turney's point situation. 38 points is what Turney needs, so that would be 4th or higher, in fact. So 4th or higher would leave Martinezzi simply not with a sufficient number of points to beat his tally. Remember, if we do have a tie on intermediate points, Costoy is all over the back of Turney, by the way, for what at the moment is 3rd place. If it's a tie on points in the intermediate classification, we go back to time qualifying. Here is what happened. No, is that rear left locked up?
Now, it locked up, but it kept moving afterwards. Ooh. It's locked there. That's tricky. That's tricky, because he's locked up. He is locked up. I think that might be an engine seizure, or he was on the brakes because he was getting knocked from behind. That's a really difficult one to call, but judging how the wheels were locked even on the gravel there, and he wasn't trying to just get it back onto the track, I think that might be mechanical.
May well be indeed. Meanwhile, front of the order, Lewis Francis has gained 7 places so far in this race and is absolutely flying. He is one of the new tyre runners. Joe Turney, by the way, has gone down to 11th place. That is Zach Green out of the race, and Enrique Bernaldi as well. Another tough weekend for Bernaldi. It's going to be questionable as to whether we see the Brazilian driver through into the superheats tomorrow.
Yeah, indeed. That is a really tough one, and they're out of this race. Here is Costoya now, seemingly pushing his way through. Past Emili Koivisto, back up into 4th place. Francis at the front is breaking away. There is the move for Costoy down the inside of Kenzo Craig. He moves now up into 3rd place. He's now leading that group's train, the 3rd place train that's pushing through, despite the fact that Craig is sending it back down the inside there. Used tyres? What used tyres? I've still got some pace here.
That's good stuff from Kenzo Craigie, who's raced well this afternoon. Just keeping an eye on the point situation for Turney. So he's obviously still scoring more points, but right now he would only be 38 points ahead of Martinezzi, i.e. if Martinezzi could get a top 3 in his last heats later on this afternoon, he would overtake Turney in the intermediate classification. It is all going on in this race. Costoya fighting very hard there to hold on to 5th place. That's allowing Craigian Koivisto to break away. Aston Sharp's having a go at the championship leader. New fastest lap of the race, though, from Lewis Francis. Seriously keep an eye on Lewis Francis this weekend. Every single time I've seen the Australian come out on circuit, yeah, he didn't have the best of timed qualifyings. Francis has looked rapid and ruthless as well at his ability to come through the field. This is looking very good for Francis's hopes for tomorrow.
It certainly is, and he is really delivering a good one here. Now, of course, Turney, he's still absolutely fine right now. 222 points to his name, despite the fact that he's in 9th place. Well, here we go. Now it's kicking off now. Koivisto down the inside of Craigie. Craigie lost out in 2 places there. Koivisto lost out in both. And Aston Sharp getting to 2 for 1 special through 16 and 17. And Aston Sharp now is inside that top 3. Crucial to note, are you noticing the tyre squealing that we're hearing now? That is fresh tyres being used and abused right now in this last qualifying heat.
Well, yeah, because there's so many changes that could happen in the intermediate classification at this stage. It's going into the old cliche adage of if in doubt, flat out for the drivers at the moment. This is another look down the inside. This was Craigie losing position to Koivisto. And Aston Sharp, that is lovely. Yep. That is really good from Aston Sharp, running with the Charles Leclerc racing team, the CL-branded Bill ART technology, of course, on that one. And Aston Sharp quietly getting on with things here, up to P3. Now, that's an interesting note on our screens, Anthony. Under investigation, kart number 298. That's Gino Rocchio. I wonder, is that for just at least having a look at whether there was any foul play with the problem for Lewis Whewell on lap 1?
Possibly so. There's a big moment there for Joe Turney, mounting the back there of, I think, was that Armin Kariya-Osman or Hugo Marti around that part of the lap. But went skywards there. That was a heart-in-mouth moment, but he keeps it on the straight and narrow, albeit now is in a danger zone here of dropping down in the order. Like you say, he's still in a really good spot. That's a bit of damage there to Alloy. No, that's the 305. That's Kenneth Fairhand, unfortunately, the Parallel Motorsport machine out of the race. And yeah, that's not gone too well for him and possibly another driver here, despite the fact that he didn't start too far down. I mean, he started 17th on the road. But yeah, he's had a pretty tough weekend, but that might be the end of his weekend.
It's been a tough one for Fairhand. Meanwhile, let's have a look at a replay. So what happens here with Joe Turney? Oh, my goodness me. That is a very, very scary moment. Twice getting up on the back of the Forza just ahead.
Now, was that? Yeah, I think it was Armin Kariya-Osman then on the Forza machine that was involved in that incident. And yeah, like you say, very scary moment there, especially at the fastest part of the circuit. Remember, they're touching around 140 kilometers an hour into that braking zone down there. And for two karts to collide like that, very touchy moment. This battle here, Francis Rocchio closing in, 0.5 of a second is the gap. However, Rocchio under investigation in this race, and certainly possibly one that could be one we need to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. As Costoya's out. Costoya is out. That is a big development there. Not sure what's happened to the championship leader. He will make it into the superheats, of course, and still be in a decent position. But that is going to result in a loss of championship points. Costoya is currently 7th in the intermediate classification. Is that the start of things changing for Christian Costoya's season? Out of the final heat of the day.
We had a 24-point lead in the championship going into this one from Jacopo Martinez, and both of those still have had relatively decent results. Martinez now would finish ahead of him in the intermediate classification, which means he would gain more points than Costoya. But that is a big blow to the stomach there for Christian Costoya. Fresh tyres on board, and he's not even going to get to use them fully.
So out of the final corner onto the last lap, it's a Kart Republic in the lead of this one, but it's not Joe Turney this time. It's Australia's Lewis Francis who is piling on the pressure. And I tell you what, Lewis Francis is moving up the intermediate classification with this. Right now, Francis would be P2. It would knock Marcus Shilkunas out of the clubhouse lead. Shilkunas is looking at the outside of row number 1 for one of those superheats, with Turney still just keeping on rolling with the points. The gap right now would be 39 points to Jacopo Martinez, meaning Martinez could still beat Turney's total when he comes out for his final heat. But what a job Lewis Francis has done in this one, continuing the great form that a number of Australian drivers are in here this weekend. Francis wins the final heat for Groups A and F at a canter, 8/10 from Gino Rocchio. Aston Sharp is home in P3. Emily Koivisto 4th. Kenzo Craigie scores well again, P5. Davide Bataro 6th. Hugo Marti 7th. Makar Savalev, Joe Turney and Jacob Mikulev complete the top 10. That leaves Turney on 222 points from a possible 250. A very good score, but could still be beaten by Jacopo Martinezzi, who is 40 points back with 50 still to play. Martinezzi finishes in the top 3 of his heat. He will snatch pole position and the full complement of 25 championship points away from the reigning champion. Amankara Osman, P11. Great drive from Romeo Roussel there, the French driver, up 17 to 12th. Ivanikov, Gallen and Corby complete the top 15. It's Kolovos, Gonzalez, Zedzielski, Andriotis and Teixeira in the top 20. Pokorny, the last of the finishers. A lot of retirements in that one and a lot of big names out in that one. Christian Kostoya didn't see the end, neither did Kara Furhand, Roman Kamiab, Alois Girardet, Zach Green, Bernardo Benaldi, Lewis Werrell, and Sky Parker. I fear that may be the end of the weekend for Sky Parker, classified in 29th. Daniel Harastay and Mattis Omata did not take the race start. But there's your race winner, buoyed by that one. Lewis Francis is a driver to look out for tomorrow in those super heats and finals. He's raced through very nicely indeed. Let's go back to the race start. Not a good one for Joe Turney. Lewis Werrell got the jump. Through would follow both Gino Rocchio and Lewis Francis. Down into turn 2, there'll be issues for Kostoya. Bolt again behind Kenzo Craigie. So many drivers knowing that it was now or never for their hopes here this weekend. It was busy in the second half of the field. Werrell looking nice and calm at the wheel, but his race would suddenly change by the time they got out of the infield section. This was the run through and towards turn number 8, and then here, definite locking on the rear axle there for Werrell. The big question, was that because of a mechanical failure, or was that because of physical encouragement, shall we say, from Gino Rocchio? Gino Rocchio under investigation, we know, and that the race officials are looking at something in relation to Gino Rocchio's race. Werrell would be out. Change at the front again, though. Rocchio would lose the lead to Lewis Francis. That was the key moment for Lewis Francis' race, who would tear off into the distance. Another close moment between Kostoya and Turney. Not their first today. They've raced through all 5 of these heats together. Zach Green's difficult weekend would see retirement in this 5th round of heats. Bernardo Benaldi out of the race, unfortunately, yet again. That was Kostoya down the inside of Kenzo Craigie. Another solid race for the reigning OKJ World Champion. Craigie doing a favour for the Card Republic family there, back down the inside into turns 8 and 9. And Emily Koivisto was also racing nicely through the field. This was Koivisto down the inside of Craigie. Aston Sharp getting both of them on the way through to 3rd place for the Scotsman. A superb run for the 302 there for CL Racing Team. Still not done in the fight for positions in the top 10. Joe Turney, just on the outskirts of it, had this scary moment climbing over the back of Amankara Osman. And the other question, is the front fairing for Turney okay in that moment there? Kostoya still running high up the order, but there would be problems for the championship leader soon after that. He would retire. No problems for Lewis Francis, though. Another Australian win here this weekend at Portimao in the heats. Currently 2nd in the intermediate classification. More to come from that, of course. Let's head down once again to Parc Ferme and to Anthony Jordan.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yes, down here with our race winner from that one, and now 2nd in the points, Lewis Francis. Congratulations to you. Brilliant day, brilliant weekend you've been having. Pretty solid results, and are you feeling ready for tomorrow?
Yeah, feeling really good for tomorrow. We worked really well with the team today and managed to end with a win, which is always good. And yeah, feeling good for tomorrow, and let's have a go.
That race we thought was going to be a little bit of a fight. Luckily, you managed to get away in the early stages of that one. So many drivers going for those fresh tyres. The reason for the deployment today and not saving them for tomorrow, what was the reason behind that?
Well, we just wanted to put them on to, get those positions as we did. The race seemed pretty crazy, so it was quite good that we're at the front, but yeah, it was good fun.
you having a brief chat quickly before we went live down here with Joe, just saying, you know, what that race was pretty insane. But, you know, from what you think of it, the start of that one was pretty hectic, wasn't it, right at the beginning?
Yeah, well, it was pretty crazy at the start, obviously with Lewis crashing and everything. But yeah, it was good after that. I managed to build the gap and managed to get the win.
Did you know what happened at the beginning of that? What was your view of it?
No, I didn't really see, but I saw, as I kept building the gap, I saw on the other side of the track that it seemed like a lot was going on, so it was good that we're in the lead.
Yeah. Well, still, plenty has happened today. More is going to happen tomorrow. We'll let you focus on that one. What's your plan now for until tomorrow?
Yeah, go get a good night rest and, yeah, just relax.
Excellent. Sounds good to me. Well, enjoy that one. We'll see you later on. Well done, Lewis Francis. Plenty of racing to go. 2 more to go, but let's head back over to the juniors for their very last qualifying heat of the day.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Indeed, Groups B and C will bring us to a close for OK Junior, and it's still all up for grabs as to who's going to be starting on pole position for those super heats tomorrow. 8 laps once again, 12 kilometres to sort this one out. Another 30 drivers just getting themselves in the zone, if not already, for this last heat at this stage for OK Junior. We'll update you on the intermediate classification situation in a moment's time. You can see, though, a switch. William Kalesia is on the right-hand side of your screen. That is his prerogative as pole position holder. He can elect whether to start on driver's left or driver's right. He has gone for driver's left, putting Antonio Pizzonia onto the inside line for the run to turn 1. But, of course, will have to be offset back from the Australian. And, well, Kalesia's really been leading the charge for the Australians so far here this weekend. Could be in a position here to have a very strong finish to this cycle. And again, for Forza Racing, they have been the team to beat, it would seem, in OK Junior so far this weekend. They, of course, had that amazing 2024 with Dries van Langendonk, but they've got several runners this year right at the sharp end of the field. Antonio Pizzonia on the left-hand side of your screen, the son, that's Antonio Pizzonia Jr., the son of the former Formula One racer. He's had a good weekend, still very early in his Champions of the Future career. Started the weekend in terms of the races with a couple of thirds yesterday through the first 2 rounds of qualifying heats, looking to at least get back up to that level, maybe even beat it in this one. Alexander Lazarus has got a big role to play in this race as well, you'd feel. He's going to be starting on the outside of row number 2, but now immediately behind his teammate Kalesia. That's another one of the Forza Racing runners. Was a bit surprised to be so high up the order, but managed to pick his way through a quite chaotic group in timed qualifying yesterday. Took advantage of being one of the only drivers to get a clean lap in, and is looking to qualify through to the final. Of course, has got this qualifying heat and then the super heat to navigate his way through. But it's looking like quite a possibility for one of the younger, newer drivers in this category for OK Junior, drivers in the year of their 12th birthday up to the age of 14. Other drivers to keep an eye on in this one, the likes of Denny Babacek starting 6th on the grid. Noah Baglin's been strong today on the inside of row number 4. Pietro Baguti as well. And also, of course, drivers who need big results in this one. Dan Alaman, Gilles Herman. This is all their last opportunity to qualify through to the super heats tomorrow. Drew Waltz is definitely a driver to keep an eye on. The number 57 Kart Republic has been consistently moving up through the order in these 8-lap heats for 12 kilometres here at the Cartodromo Internacional do Algarve. Brilliant facility here at Portimao. Plenty of racing on here this weekend. We've got Champions of the Future here at the Cartodrome, and over the road, the full circuit, you've got a whole mix of TCRs, GT3s. It really is almost like a festival of motorsports here this weekend. Anthony Jordan has rejoined me in the box, all ready to go for this last race in the junior category, and we've still got the question of pole position 25 championship points, top of the intermediate classification on the line.
And a championship lead going
Very good
into
point, yeah.
tomorrow as well, because, of course, very close in those points. 1 point separating the top 3 of them, and William Kalijah on the front row of this grid and a potential pole sitter for tomorrow. Could be your new championship leader going into tomorrow. Let's find out, though, what happens, because the engines get fired up. That man was holding that kart over that line, and that man was William Kalijah. Or no, they've not. They've switched sides, haven't they? It was Antonio Pizzonia that was gone across the line. Thank you for that. You just pointed that out to me in the box to eat my words there. But still, Pizzonia, who was right at the front of the grid, may have been assisted. I don't know if we can see that back, whether or not that happened, but we'll go over the grid first. William Kalijah and Antonio Pizzonia on the front row of the grid. Matteo Rivals and Alexander Lazarus on row 2. Remy Samcek and Denny Babacek go from row number 3. They will have Noah Baglin and Pietro Bagutti, who has gone for new tyres on the left-hand side. Row number 5 sees a brand new set of tyres on board both of these drivers, Daniel Miron and Endo Arata, both on the left-hand side. Then you'll have Dan Alaman and Bruno Blanco, also brand new tyres on the left-hand side on row number 6. Row number 7 and the first half of the grid sees Jill Herman with brand new on the left-hand side, and Tobias Sejenny, who has not gone for tyres.
That's the first half of the grid. Giacomo Giusto and Drew Waltz will be in the midfield there on row number 8. Alessandro Truchot and Yanis Kolobos go from row number 9. Nathan Kappen and Jarlath Sayet will try to move up from the 10th row of the grid. They're ahead of Leonardo Gorski and Michael McGoy, who's been an overtaking machine so far this weekend there on row 11. Santiago Diaz de la Vega and Mariano Lopez are on row number 12. They're ahead of Olivieri Cini and Victor Stalmach on row 13. Zhang Jose and Juan Garciase are on row number 14. It's a 30-strong field. It's an all-Dutch row 15. It's a heavyweight one as well. Dean Hugendorn and Just Mulder. Here is the moment. Is there contact? Oh, I think there is. Over the line.
Well, he let go as feet were going over. We can't really tell from that angle. Race Control will have a side-on view to that. And they would say, yeah, he was still touching the cart when he went over. So, yeah, that's a tough one, though. That's a real tough one.
And the penalty, if there is a penalty for that one, we saw it with Will Green earlier. It's disqualification from the heat. So we will wait and see on that one. Meanwhile, back out on track, ready to go racing. Kalijah versus Pitsonia on the front row. Lights are out. We're racing in OK Junior for the last time here today, and it is a cracking start for William Kalijah. Head down into turn 2. It's a Forza 1-2 as things stand. That was a good run as well for Lazarus. Babacek's had a good start as well, is up to 3rd place there in the yellow and green and blue helmets. Through turn 5 we go. Gotta say, for William Kalijah, that was pretty much the perfect start.
Yeah, certainly was. And again, choosing to switch sides. So many drivers doing that. One will be a little bit sideways there for Alexander Lazarus, just there trying to get it stopped in towards turn 8 and 9. Back down the hill they go, and still a good breakaway for the top 2. Babacek's had a good start as well. Of course, he'll have been benefited by the switching of sides. So Kalijah, the driver who started this one P6, they're in 3rd place. Pushing his way through nicely here, as all being a bit wrestly in the background there. Some drivers getting caught out on each other as they head up the hill. That's some of the DPKs battling away. Probably Daniel Miron there getting caught out with the rest, as he's gone down the order now into around P14. Remy Samcek's also not had a good start to his race. 10 positions lost on that opening lap.
I knew my eyes weren't deceiving me, as Jarlath Sayers got up 9 places in the early stages of this one, up to P11. Here's a bit of a wrestling match between Lazarus and Babacek. Is there a bit of team play going on here to allow Kalijah to break away at the front of the order? Right now, as things stand, there is a gap of 17 points for Kalijah in the intermediate classification. And if you're watching at home or around the circuit on the live broadcast, you will have just seen under investigation kart 1-2, number 12, Antonio Pitsonia Jr. for possible mechanical assistance after the pre-grid exit line. As off the road is the number 82 of Blanco, rejoins the racing surface right in front of one of the fusions there. I mean, we'll of course let the investigation go through. The race officials will have a much better view of it than us. But I fear we know what's coming there for Pitsonia.
Yeah, indeed. That is a big shame there. Eyes on the rest of the field, though, as they head down in towards turn number 5. Denny Babicek, I should say, still holding firm in second place. But Endo Arata on those fresh boots looking pretty quick here and is closing right in. Remember, Babicek is not on fresh tyres. I think he deployed them earlier on today, if I'm correct in saying. Which means he has not got any for tomorrow either for the Superheat, but he is still in a strong position. Kalijah right now doing exactly what he needs to do. He is holding on to this one as I think Gilles Herman's had a problem out there because he just tumbled down 9 places. Well, that's not Gilles Herman, but that is a driver of a Forza kart, and that is Santiago Diaz de la Vega, the Mexican driver out of this race. The driver, the number 68, will not go any further. And is that William Kalijah?
Oh, it is!
William Kalijah had a chance to be new championship leader going into tomorrow, and his kart has ground to a halt. What on earth has happened there? It was definitely not an accident. It must be mechanical in nature. He wasn't around anyone out there. What has gone on with William Kalijah?
He's absolutely furious with what's occurred there. It's the second time today we've seen a Forza racing machine come to a very sudden stop. The number 8 of Noah Baglin is under investigation as well for potentially causing a collision. Well, what a turnaround this is. Endo Arata had an awful start to things, now leads this race. Babicek was having a little nibble there at Dan Aleman for second place. It's Award Racing 1-2 all of a sudden in this final heat of the day. And just when you think, oh, there's a bit of a wobble there on the front fairing of Dan Aleman's number 17, and Noah Baglin's going to be down the inside for second place here on the run through turn 2. This OK Junior story here this weekend in Portimao just keeps going back and forward, just at the point where you think it's all set, signed and delivered. That's Blanco out over the curb a few laps ago. The bit that we're really interested here in the box, here it is. It's a repeat of what happened with Filippo Sala earlier on today. He came out of turn 16, no bueno, says the engine, and that is the potential before the start of this race. Championship leader, round leader, out. Will still be in a decent position, of course, for the Superheats tomorrow, but that is potentially a pivotal moment in the story of this year's Champions of the Future series.
Well, with that happening and Noah Baglin sitting there in second place in this race, he now takes the lead of the intermediate classification. Noah Baglin with 207 points leads Domain with his 204 points. There it is, confirmation on your screen. So Baglin now is in line to receive 25 championship points and pole position for Superheat 1 tomorrow here.
I'm almost getting a bit of a sense of deja vu, though, Anthony, because we started our comms here at the circuit on Thursday morning. Henry Domain went out in the very first group, set a time, it was fastest within group, but we both turned to each other and went, no, that's not going to be pole position, that's not going to be the fastest time across 3 groups. How wrong were we? Because of the chaos that ensued through TQ, it was the fastest time. Oh, as another 2 drivers out of this race, there's a DPK involved in there, and one of the Tony karts as well. I think this is going to be Giacomo Giusto, Olivier Cini, I think Yanis Kolovos was in there as well, so they're all out of things. Baglin, yes, is leading in the intermediate points, but is under investigation. Could Henry Domain repeat what he did in TQ earlier in the week and kind of against all odds, not with the greatest score out of 250 points, but still emerge out on top through sheer consistency?
Well, we will have to wait and see on that one because, of course, this race has still got a long way to go. Endo Arata, though, is under pressure from Baglin, who's just tried to send it down the inside immediately after a yellow flag, after a green flag, sorry, I should say. But he has not been able to do anything with that one. Baglin has not deployed fresh tyres, you have to remember that. Endo Arata has. So the fact that he is here in this position, and of course he's got Dan Aleman right with him as well, he's also got fresh tyres, but the fact that he's going for the lead is quite something onto this final lap.
That was a much better move from Noah Baglin. The one before was a little bit like the 2024 Noah Baglin, where he'd be a bit too keen, stick his nose in, it wouldn't go well. He's recomposed himself here, retaken the lead in this race. He started his day, of course, with a strong heat win, but he's got those two Ward Racing runners right behind, and still Denny Babacek. Denny Babacek's not out of this as well. Denny Babacek currently 4th in the points, 196. If he can find a way through these three drivers, Denny Babacek could snatch pole position away for at least one of those super heats tomorrow. We're on the final lap. What a story we're having here in OK Junior. Noah Baglin is going to take it on the road. It's Endo Arata and Dan Aleman over the line, 2nd and 3rd. Denny Babacek will be on the front row for one of those super heats tomorrow. They're in 4th.
Indeed, a very interesting race there. The last race of the day for the junior category, with one more senior race to go. Noah Baglin at this moment stands on top of the leaderboards at the end of this race and overall with 213 points now on the screen, ahead of Domain's 204 points. A brilliant end to the day for Baglin, but remember, he is under investigation for potentially causing a collision out on circuit. Those results are provisional with a capital P. Baglin from Endo Arata. Aleman also, I think, does have a nose cone penalty there. That nose cone was flapping all over the place at the end of that race. Babacek finishing in P4 ahead of Antonio Pizzonia. Bruno Blanco from Drew Waltz, John O'Sare from Tobias Agendi, and Alexander Lazarus rounding out the top 10. John O'Sare, 12 places gained in that race. Michael McGoy with 11 places gained in P11 from Mariano Lopez's 12 places gained. Matteo Rivals finishing in 13th place ahead of Pietro Baguti, and Daniel Miron going from the top 15. Gorski in 16th from Nathan Kappen. Hugendorn and Jus Mulder, both of them gaining 11 places in that race, just finishing inside the top 20. Gilles Herman rounds out that top 20. Truchot, Stelmack, Garciase and Zhang Jose, with Jusso rounding out the 25 runners. The retirements, Samchek, Sini, Kolovos, Kalija and Diaz de Vega all out of the race. This was the start of it. Oh, tough call there for Antonio Pizzonia, who finished that race in P5. He was under investigation at the start of that one. Then it would be Kalija who'd break away at the beginning of that one, and we were honestly thinking that would be a lights to flag for him. Certainly was an interesting start, though, with his teammate Lazarus right on his rear bumper at the beginning of that one. But keep an eye on Babacek, 6th to 3rd in that opening stage. The benefits of having the pole sitter switch side to the outside row, meaning the outside line did get the benefit into turn 1 at the start of those races. That was the dramatic moment at the start, where one driver completely missing half of the circuit. We did lose Santiago Diaz de la Vega in the early stages of that race. It was relatively early on in the race as well that we lost William Kalija at the start of this one. This was that moment where we were seeing the drivers going off the circuit. That was the 82 going off the circuit, but then right round the next corner, you would see the drivers just fall into play. There it was, Kalija, kart, grinding to a halt. Engine said no more up the hill in towards turn 17. And the Australian, who was looking at starting on pole position for the Superheat tomorrow and claiming 25 championship points, went up in smoke. It's not the end of the world for him. He's still relatively high up in the order, but he doesn't sit anywhere within inside the top 8 now in that intermediate classification. Baglin in the lead, got to the end, is under investigation, but on our screens is the leader of the intermediate classification and might be the recipient of those 25 championship points. Let's head down to Parc Ferme. Andrew Mather, over to you.
Thank you very much, Anthony. Here with Noah Baglin. Noah, I was just catching a little word with your mechanic there, where you said, I'm not quite sure how I'm P1, but you are in the intermediate classification. It's been a bit of a crazy day.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a crazy day. Loads of DNF spinning on the first corner, but I'm quite surprised in P1 overall, to be honest. Without the Kalea DNF, I don't think I would have been P1, but I'll take it.
I've been noting across the course of the weekend, there's been a lot of happenings around you, but you've been so calm and just so measured in your approach, even back to timed qualifying. Have you felt that in the kart as well?
Yeah, I just need to be calm when we start P7. It's a lot of defending, so you just need to stay calm and get the overtakes when you can.
And another race win on track for you. Does that give you confidence as well, that even though you've been starting a little bit further back, you've got the pace to come through?
Yeah, the pace is there, so we'll just see what we can do tomorrow.
Superheats are next. You're going to be at the sharp end. Any change in tactics?
No, I think I'm just going to go from there.
Good stuff. Well, Noah, have a good rest tonight. We'll see you at the sharp end of the grid tomorrow.
Thank you.
Very good stuff there with Noah Baglin, who's picked his way through with that experience of 2024. He is our leader, provisionally, of course, in the results in OK Junior. Anthony, back up to you. One more race today.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Yes, indeed. Back over to the seniors now for the very last qualifying heat of the weekend before we go into those super heats and finals. Tomorrow on Saturday, it is qualifying heat B versus Z for the senior category, heading out onto the track next. And, well, looking at it, reports from the pre-grid down there. Lots of tyres on board. We'll talk about that a little bit in a moment's time. But this is where it all falls down to it, of course. Right now, it is, of course, your man Joe Turney leading the way. I don't think there's anyone in this that is close enough to potentially take that away, but we'll have to wait and see what happens as the engines fire up. Drivers make their way out onto the circuit. Let's quickly fire you through that full starting lineup because, well, we've got a lot of tyres to go over because there's a fair few with them. It's probably easy to tell you who hasn't got them once again. It will be Luna Flusha and Filippo Sala on the front row of the grid for this one. Both of them have got brand new sets on the left-hand side of their card. Jacopo Martinez in P3 has not got a brand new set. He deployed them earlier on, but Louis Cochet has got them. Marco Garst and Eli Kaczynski, fresh tyres, row 3. Alpak Soy and Oliver Rasmussen, fresh tyres on row number 4. Dries van Langendonk and Boris Leisen, they've got a fresh set also inside that top 10 on row number 5. Oliver Stadler and Jorn Helder on row 6 with a fresh set. Zhao Zijun and Alexander Chartier on row 7, also brand new set of tyres. Sebastiana Pavan and Jakub Kamenek on row 8, also brand new set. And now when you get to row 9, Nicolo Kaman has not got a new set on. I think he deployed them earlier on today as well. Rafalik has got them, who joins him alongside. Noah Wolf with a brand new set. Lucas Gayson, who hasn't deployed them, starts on row 10. From James Anagnosiadis and Ella Hakkinen, those two have deployed them. Vilma Svan and Son Aziz on row 12. Aziz hasn't got them. Svan does have them. Bralak and Arnaldo on row 13, both new sets. Sadamat Soya on row 14 has got them. Luke Cornder has not. Brovko and Tovagino have not deployed them. They deployed them, I think, earlier on. And Federico Rossi has not also got a brand new set of tyres on board. In fact, Brovko does have the tyres on board. It's Rossi who doesn't. So there we go. Brovko is deploying that new set. Lots is going to be happening on this one. Of course, Joe Turney leads with 222 points. From what I can understand, I don't think anyone in this one can top him. Or
Martinez can with third or higher.
Right, okay.
So Martinez on 182 is 40 points back, but must outscore Turney, because Turney would always win a tiebreaker scenario from TQ earlier in the week.
Indeed. Well, there we go. Let's see what happens then. We saw him dominate earlier on not used tyres. We're going around again. Not sure what on earth has happened there, but that grid was not formed up at all. Yeah, Martinez earlier on. Great race, or as I'm thinking, I am thinking of him, aren't
when
I?
he held on just before the lunch break.
Yeah, he didn't deploy them, did he?
Nope.
And he still hasn't deployed them. He's saving them for tomorrow.
I'm a bit surprised that he hasn't gone for them in this one, because it's almost a bit of an open door with those 40 points. Let's have a look at a replay. What are we... now that is some movement in the order beyond those. Did you see those red and white cones by the marshal coming past marshal post 13? you're not meant to overtake after those. So we are going round again, so we'll keep an eye on any kind of notices from race control. Yeah, I'm surprised that Martinezzi's not put the tyres on, because, you know, if he can get ahead of Turney here, that's equivalent to 3 championship points. And who knows how important 3 championship points could be at the end of the season. Luna Flusha, though, this is a great opportunity once again from the front row of the grid. Can she bounce back from earlier disappointment?
Well, let's find out as nice and steady they go into that final corner. Luna Flusha and Filippo Sala on the front row of this grid. Lights are out for the last race of the day as they head down in towards turn number 1 and 2. It is absolutely nail-bitingly close between the top runners here as they both got a lightning start at the beginning of that one, but it is Flusha who holds on to the lead of this race. Martinezzi has got himself up into second place. The driver who is in a possible chance of starting on pole position for Super Heat 1 is in a really good spot here. There is dust kicked up in the background. I think all karts are still running as they've all made it through sector number 1 cleanly. Down in towards the hairpin of turns 8 and 9, the double apex here. Still Flusha that leads the way from Jacopo Martinezzi, and it looks to me like the Forza Racing of Filippo Sala is holding nicely onto third place right now.
Really quick start. So many drivers right up to the edge of the limits on drivers left through turn number 1. But got to say, for Martinezzi, that was a superb effort to get into second place. This could be one of the most important laps of his weekend. He can hold track position up the front here. Luna Flusha is going to drive away, you would feel, on her fresher tyres. If Martinezzi can stretch out the field, he's got a good chance. But here, down the inside goes Sala. Gast is there as well. Aksoy's going to have a go, and just like that, it will turn Martinezzi over the line in the live intermediate points. Had a 4-point advantage over Joe Turney, but those 2 positions on track that he's just lost will turn things back in the reigning champion's favour.
Certainly will, and we'll have to see if he can maintain this composure throughout this race. But Flusha is in control here, and that gap extending now 0.4 of a second. Eyes on this in the background. Alpak Soy, I think. Is that Alpak Soy? No, I think it is indeed. Yes, in P5 for trying to push his way through. Cochet trying to go down the inside. Not close enough. And actually, Cochet lost out a lot of time there at that turn 16. Eyes on this one. Sala, though, still doing a good job. Where is Martinezzi now? He's there in P4, and as you were saying, drops him to second in the points, 2 points shy of Joe Turney. Now, if he can stay in P4, that's all good, as there's been drama for Kaczynski and Alexander Chartier, I think, in that lap. They are tumbling down the order, and I can see there are some drivers out of the race. There is the victory lane of Alexander Chartier. He had dramas earlier on where he was out. He fist bumps the wall there, and he's furious, absolutely furious.
Yep, that is the end of a pretty torrid day for Canada's Alexander Chartier, and with the bad results, that may well be him out of the rest of the running here this weekend. Remember, once again, it's the top 72 who go forward to those super heats tomorrow. So 20 drivers of the 92-strong entry are going to drop out here at the end of this one. Sala down the inside, goes through for the race lead, demotes Luna Flusha down to P2, and Gast is now going to have a go down the inside. Lovely move from Marco Gast, Koski Motorsports up to P2.
Now, if these continue to fight here, this helps out one person, Jacopo Martinezzi, who is now dropping down into the pack here. He cannot deal with all these drivers on the fresh tyres now. He didn't deploy the use. You know, I agree with him not deploying it because he could still be in P2. Here is how he lost out on these few positions down the inside. 1, not 2. But yeah, you can just see him falling backwards in the order. And then from that point onwards, it's just a game of who's next, really.
The problem for Martinezzi now, though, mate, is that his gap to Lewis Francis is starting to drop. It was 20 points. It's already down to 12. So he's got to hold there. I would say similar to what we saw from Joe Turney in his last heat. He's got to hold, I would say, in the top 12 to guarantee a spot for one of those superheat poles. Meanwhile, front of the order, Marco Gast is on one today. Down the inside of Filippo Sala takes the race lead.
Yep, he does. And Sala now thinking, right, how did that happen? I thought I was breaking away after that overtake, but he certainly wasn't. And now Marco Gast, who I've got to say, we've been talking about a lot this weekend at the sharp end of the order. He has impressed as the Koski Motorsport driver, certainly putting in a good show here at the Portimao circuit as they climb back up the hill here, running a little wide there at the exit of the turn 14 and 15, and Sala just keeping in check with him as they go back down the start-finish straight. They punch a hole in the air now. Got to say, wind's died down considerably here now down the start-finish straight. They're not punching such a large hole in the air, but you can see how much the slipstream is still working. Gast does not drop Sala or Flusha for that matter.
No, this is closer back to the kind of conditions that we saw in yesterday's heats. Louis Cachet at 55.916. I've seen some data over the lunch break that was looking at like average fastest lap times across all these different heats as Flusha's managed to find a way through past Sala there for P2. Really bold move there from Luna Flusha. But the data was being shown is that Louis Cachet, in terms of race pace on fastest laps, is one of the fastest drivers here this weekend, repeatedly, again and again and again. And again, keep an eye on Victory Lane when we get to those longer races tomorrow. Their track record from 2024 would tell us that they are quite the specialists at being able to make tyres, particularly fresher tyres, go longer and deeper in that first peak band of performance than anybody else. Meanwhile, another round of this battle for second place. Sala down the inside this time, retakes Flusha's second place.
Yeah, indeed. Nice, just chop and change there between these two. Still just focusing on what they need to do. However, Aksoy, Cochet, Lysen, Van Langdonk, Rasmussen, Wolf, Martinez, all closing in behind. And this is becoming quite a significantly large group for the lead battle, isn't it? I think 1's good, 2's fine, 3's company, and then about 8 is, yeah, I don't like that. And then there's Cochet battling with Alp Aksoy just behind as well, and he does find his way through. Aksoy now down to P5. Now, if they continue to fight like that, they will lose touch of these ones, because now Gast really getting into a rhythm here now and opening a 5/10 lead from the drivers behind.
On to lap number 8 then. Marco Gast is the race leader. Filippo Sala P2. It's not done though here. There's Boris Lysen at the back of this trio. And another solid day for KRZ Motorsport. There's a 5-second penalty, in-race penalty to Mark Brovko, the 284, for causing a collision. That will demote the driver in 24th place down at the moment to 28th as things stand. Marco Gast breaking away here. It's at the moment looking like Gast would be on the outside of row 1 for Superheat B. Ahead of him in the IC. Turney, of course, in the lead. Martinez is holding on to an advantage over Turney, so at least the Italian will be on pole for Superheat B as things stand. Luis Francis would be on the opposite side of the front row to his KR teammate Joe Turney. We're into the latter stages though here. This is going to be a key one now. Gast just looking, Anthony, to bring this one home.
Indeed, it's nearing that end of the race, the end of the day as well. All of these drivers have done what they can to get into those superheats tomorrow. For many of them, it's a job done and they know they're through. For some, it's game over today before tomorrow, because remember, there are eliminations at the end of the superheat phase as well, because only 36 go through to those finals, and they need to make sure that they are in that top 36 at the end of those superheat phase tomorrow, so it's not over yet for many of these drivers. For Marco Gast, though, it is all over. He crosses the line. Last time today, he's just got that last lap to go, and he's still clear by 4 full tenths of a second.
It's a good run for Marco here. Just a bit lower down in that IC. Cachet P5, Sala P6, Chilkunas P7, Craigie P8. All these results provisional, of course. For Marco Gast, this is the kind of performance that, similar to what we've been talking about with Luis Francis, I think very much puts him in the frame for a podium tomorrow. We'll have all of those super heats and the finals as well here from Portimao throughout the course of the day. It's still not done for second place as well between Sala and Flusha. I think Sala's going to have enough here to hold on. Towards the last couple of corners then, here on the final lap, checkered flag is being prepared. Marco Gast is a heat winner here in Portimao and wins it by a second ahead of Filippo Sala. Luna Flusha with another great result there in P3. Louis Cachet, strong pace, P4 in that final heat of the day, and a good haul of championship points as well. Cachet is 5th as things stand in the intermediate classification. Alpak Soy P6, 7th for Dries van Langentok. A bit of a quiet run through the heats for last year's Champions of the Future OKJ Junior winner. Jacopo Martinezzi's 8th means he isn't able to beat Joe Turney's 222, but he does secure pole position for Super Heat B, and he still takes 22 championship points, so just misses out on that extra 3, but it's still a good turnover of points for Martinezzi, and he will close the gap to Christian Costoya in the championship standings overnight. 9th for Noah Wolf, decent run there for the Van Amersfoort Racing by Birrell driver up to 9th place. Oliver Rasmussen completes the top 10. Jorn Helder, Fausto Arnado, Sebastiano Pavan, James Adagnostiidis and Maxi Rafalik complete the top 15. Good drive from Ella Hakkinen, up 6 spots to 16th. As well, that same net position gain for Vilma Svan immediately behind in P17. Oliver Stadler, Chao Ji-gyun, Jakub Kamenik all in the top 20. Jason Bralick, Lucas Gayson, Sunan Z, Mark Brovko, Luke Conda all in the top 25. Nicolo Kuman, Federico Rossi, Max Tovagino and Sarah Matsui all got home to see the checkered flag. 2 retirements in that one early in the race. Elliot Kaczynski and Alexander Chartier. But there's your race winner. Marco Gast will be on the front row for Super Heat B tomorrow. And similarly takes a big chunk of championship points, 17 of them to be exact on those provisional scores. Let's have a look at the highlights from the last race of the day. The question was, could Jacopo Martinezzi perform the heroics to snatch away P1 in the intermediate classification? He had a good start immediately behind Luna Flusha. Flusha led in the early stages. Martinezzi straight up into second place. But the extra grip, the extra performance available for the majority of the field in this final race of the day over Martinezzi would start to show pretty quickly. Filippo Sala on the attack was one of those with fresher rubber on his wagon. Sala would go for a nice move down the inside into turn number 2. Gast would follow. That was a key point for Marco Gast's race, to not lose too much time behind Martinezzi. Martinezzi would then have battles with Boris Slyzen, the Polish driver, down the inside into turn number 8. Alpak Soy taking position there. Louis Cachet not too far behind. Awful day, unfortunately, for Alexander Chartier. Would end in another DNF. Elliot Kaczynski also out on that same lap. Changed for the lead. Sala would go past Flusha, looking to rebound after disappointment earlier. Marco Gast, again, very efficient with his overtakes, Marco Gast. The Dane going through there for second place. And then pretty much a carbon copy move on Sala for the race lead. That would be the key one in the end. Sala not able to live with the pace of the Koski Motorsport 296. Flusha would go back through ahead of Sala for second place. They traded that one back and forth several times across the course of this final heat for groups B and C. And in the end, it would be Sala winning out in that battle. That move down the inside in the first sector would take second place. A win for Gast and a very good position in the intermediate classification at the end of this heat day. Will be an outside chance for the win tomorrow. Let's once again head down to Parc Fermé and to Anthony Jordan.
Thank you very much, Andrew, for the last time today. Yes, here with our, not race winner from that one, but someone who will be starting on pole tomorrow in the Superheats, Jacopo Martinez. Congratulations. Great racing you on that one still, despite the fact that you didn't have the fresh tyres, you held on to your own and you held on to being second overall in the points.
Yeah, we were in a position where we could afford to not deploy the new tyres. We knew that the first couple of laps we had to struggle a little bit, but coming out on the last couple of laps, just started getting a bit better compared to the others, and yeah, even gaining some position. So yeah, good for tomorrow, start P1 and pre-final B. Yeah.
A lot of people did deploy those fresh tyres today, quite early on as well. Is there any thought point of why you were thinking, like why drivers were thinking to deploy them today versus saving them, like you've done for tomorrow?
Well, for sure there is someone that has to come back from the back of the field, so they prefer to put it as early as possible to save what is possible. And yeah, and there is like another case like me that we prefer to have better performance in the pre-final tomorrow.
Yeah. Quite a few of you in the Cup Republic camp have done that. Of course, Joe didn't deploy his earlier on. You've not deployed yours. You won't be in the same race, of course, but you're both in the same situation. Are you going to be chatting tonight and talking about game plans, or is it just relax now and wait for tomorrow?
Well, for sure, we're still going to work a bit on what we can tonight, and then, of course, a little bit of rest because tomorrow is an important day, and yeah, let's see what we can do.
Excellent. Well, congratulations, and we'll see you on the front row tomorrow in the Superheats.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, there you have it. We're all done and dusted here then for the qualifying heats. But tomorrow is another very busy day. Andrew, you're up there in the commentary box. Tell us, what can we expect tomorrow?
I am indeed. Well, a full day of racing once again here at Portimao for the culmination of round 2 for this year's Champions of the Future Euro Series. We will kick off at 9:50 local time here in Portugal with Superheat A for the OK Juniors, 20 minutes later for the senior category, 20 minutes running through those second set of Superheats as well, the top 72 drivers going through those phases. We'll of course then cut that number per class down to 36 for the final. 1 p.m. for the OK Junior final. The podium will follow immediately after that for that 17-lap final. And then 1:40 local time as well for the OK final. 20 laps to decide who's going to be the winner for Champions of the Future 2025 round 2. For more information, head across to the website www.championskarting.com. All of the results and analysis is over there. My name's been Andrew Mather, Anthony Jordan alongside me once again. We'll see you tomorrow, bright and early, here in Portugal for finals day.